Chapter 764. Apart from you, it's hard for me to fall in love with anyone else, Lu Chaoga said seriously. It seemed that in her heart, there was nothing more serious and important than this in the world. She confessed. Was this a confession? In the end, she still said it. Although she knew that it wouldn't end well, after saying it out, her depressed mood was relieved a lot. The big stone in her chest shifted a little. At least she could breathe normally now. However, after she had done this, her heart was filled with guilt. She put down the chopsticks in her hand, like a child who had done something wrong. She looked at Fang Yin, who had a gloomy expression, and said, "I know I'm being selfish by doing this. You purposely rushed to Huacheng, especially made such a sumptuous dinner, and then told me that you're getting married. I already understood what you meant. I'm not stupid, and I'm a very scheming woman, right? I know. You don't want to hurt me. You don't want to make me wait for too long. You want to solve this problem in a relaxed and casual state. Yes, I have to admit, I've become a problem in your heart." "It's not like that," Fang Yin wanted to explain. "Fang Yin, just like how you understand me, I also understand you." Lu Chaoga interrupted Fang Yin's words. Her feelings were actually the same as Fang Yin's. Fang Yin didn't want her to get hurt, and she also didn't want to put Fang Yin in a difficult position. "You know my feelings for you, so you've been avoiding talking about it. It's good to avoid it. At least it won't make our relationship so awkward. At least there won't be a gap between us, and our cooperation has always been so tacit. But now, you've met your destined lady, the woman you want to spend the rest of your life with. You're getting married, and this is something to be happy about. As your friend and business partner, I should say congratulations. Actually, when I heard this news, my heart was very heavy, and I felt very depressed, as if I couldn't breathe. But I still want to congratulate you. You must have chosen a very outstanding woman. You like her, and she also loves you deeply. You two are a perfect match. You are also very outstanding," Fang Yin said in a deep voice. "Yes, I'm also very outstanding. I've always thought so." Lu Chaoga smiled and said, "After my parents passed away, I was alone. She ate alone, slept alone, read alone, traveled alone, went abroad alone, and then came back to Rosefinch. Under the watchful and guarded eyes of the men, fighting for power with them. Many times I wonder what my life would be like if I hadn't returned from America, if I hadn't entered Rosefinch Secondary. She listened to the Jiang family, married the son of her enemy, and pretended that she never knew about those things. Or was he killed by the father and son of the Jiang family because he resisted and his body was thrown into the sea? But that is only if. I came to Rosefinch, and you also came to Rosefinch. We met, and you saved my life again and again. You changed my life, and because of me, you changed your own life. I even think if it wasn't for me, perhaps your father wouldn't have died. This has nothing to do with you. Don't think too much." Fang Yin stopped her. "Fang Yin, I can't help but think. I know how much trouble I brought you, and I know how many enemies I brought you. The Rubik's Cube is a devil that tempts people to commit crimes. It makes countless people covet it, and it makes them do the craziest and most inhumane things. I can't protect it, and it has always been you who has been protecting it. Many people wonder why I said that Chao Yin is your Chao Yin. She should be your Chao Yin. How much you've sacrificed for it, and how much effort you've put in. Those people don't know, but I remember it in my heart. So, during the 3 years you were gone, no matter how difficult it was, no matter how dangerous it was, I gritted my teeth and persevered. I told myself, Lu Chaoga, you must hold on. They want to defeat you, and they want to take away the Rubik's Cube from your hands. This Rubik's Cube is not only the blood and sweat of your parents, but also the blood and sweat of Fang Yin, because they've sacrificed too much for it. Before I met you, my biggest dream was to avenge my father. I've been looking for an opportunity to let the father and son of the Jiang family get what they deserve, but I know better than anyone that I'm no match for them. If I show even the slightest flaw, I might be killed by them, do you know? I've even prepared to accept Jiang Julio's proposal, because only then I can have the chance to do what I want to do. And only then can I let down the Jiang family's guard against me. Can you understand that? I've endured that kind of vigilant gaze every day, as if they're guarding against a thief, for more than 10 years. Every day, every year, it's the same. In fact, I've already given up all hope. I know it's hard for me to fight against the father and son of the Jiang family, but at that time, you appeared. You gave me the courage to refuse, and you also gave me the hope to avenge my parents, and indeed, you helped me do it. You may not be able to imagine how happy I was when Qiang Longtan and Jiang Zhulu got the punishment they deserved, when the part of Longta group that originally belonged to my parents returned to me, because it meant that my parents could finally rest in peace in the underworld. They could finally heave a sigh of relief, close their eyes quietly, and rest for a while. When they saw that I was living in my enemy's house, they must have been so worried that they couldn't sleep well, right? Fan Yin, I'm 29 years old this year. If I can only live to 60 years old, I've already lived half of my life. The first half of my life, I lived for revenge, but what am I going to live for in the second half? In the past, I thought that I wanted to build an economic empire for you, and I wanted you to have the strength to fight against any enemy. No matter if your opponent was the Jiang family or any other family, Chao Yin would always be your strong shield. I wanted Chao Yin Technology to become the world's #1 energy company, and I wanted you to become the richest man in the world. I thought I could do it, and I never dared to slack off. Because this is what I promised you, so I must do it. Actually, you don't have to do that. You don't have to work so hard. Lu Chaoga smiled bitterly and shook her head. Fan Yin, apart from this, what else can I do? My parents are gone, and my aunt is also gone. I don't have any relatives in this world, and even my friends are pitifully few. Tell me, what should I live for? People have to do something when they're alive, right? They have to have some spiritual support, right? Don't worry, I'm not telling you this to make you change your mind. Lu Chaoga had a slight smile on her face, as if she was laughing at herself for saying such words and doing such things. When a man told you that he was going to get married, she jumped out and said that she liked him, loved him, sacrificed so much for him, and was pitiful and lonely. This kind of behavior was really unforgivable. I've said it before, the woman you choose must be an excellent woman, and it must be the woman you love deeply. No matter what, I still want to say my blessings to you. Fan Yin, I hope you'll be happy and blessed. Thank you, Fan Yin said gratefully. But since I said such words and did such, things that are hard for people to accept and understand, I still want to ask. I know that if I don't do this, I may not have another chance in the future. Is this the last time I ask you to stay? Or is it an attempt? No matter what, Fan Yin, I want to ask you, do you like me? If it's possible, I think it's good for us to get married. You can focus on what you like to do, and you can pursue the martial arts you want. I'll take care of your business, give birth to a few children, clean up your house. We can live here, or we can buy a bigger house. I know what kind of food you like to eat. I know what kind of flavors you like. I remember every single one of them. We can live together, not alone. Alone after work, alone for dinner, alone for TV, alone for sleep, alone for wake up, alone for shopping, alone for couples accessories. Chaoga, Fan Yin tried very hard to open his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. Say, okay, let's get married, get off work, eat, watch TV, sleep, get up, go shopping together, buy couples accessories together. Say, let's get married, you'll give birth to my children, clean up my house, and take care of my life, and make me the happiest man in the world. Or say nothing, walk over, and hold her tightly in his arms. Fine beads of sweat began to appear on Fan Yin's forehead, and even his legs began to tremble. This was the most difficult choice he had ever encountered in his life. Whether in the past or in the future, there shouldn't be a moment more difficult to choose than this one. Lu Chaoga nervously waited for Fan Yin's answer, waiting for his final choice. But when she saw that he was even more nervous than she was, she began to feel sorry for him. Why did she have to make things so difficult for a man? She pushed the chair away, stood up, walked over to Fan Yin, and leaned over to kiss Fan Yin's lips. She desperately asked for it, put her lilac tongue into Fan Yin's mouth, twisting and stirring. A long time passed. She pushed Fan Yin away, panting, and said with tears in her eyes, Fan Yin, I know your answer. This time it's true. I wish you happiness. Chapter 765. Lu Chao had been gone for a long time, but Fong Yin was still sitting at the dining table without moving. Love is fulfilling, but love is also a risk. Love is being together, but love is giving up. His heart was in a mess. Fong Yin had never experienced a more difficult choice than this, and he had never encountered something more heart-wrenching than this. He had expected this scene, but he still underestimated Lu Chaoga's persistence. Fong Yin thought that after he told Lu Chaoga that he was going to get married, Lu Chaoga would still expressionlessly say, "Is that so? Congratulations." Because he knew Lu Chaoga, he knew her modesty, was familiar with her self-control, and knew how proud a woman she was. How could she be like an ordinary woman and try to retain a relationship? How could she do something so lowly? But she did it, frank and direct, without any disguise. Lu Chaoga. Fong Yin's heart was heavy, repressed, and also a trace of joy. As a normal man, who could completely ignore a confession of this level of beauty, Fong Yin asked himself in his heart, with an extremely serious attitude, his feelings for Lu Chaoga. What were they like? Do you like Lu Chaoga? Lu Chaoga was like a ripe fruit, beautiful, cool, and full of elegance. If it was just based on appearance, any man would find it hard to refuse the favor of such a beauty. Lu Chaoga was very smart, and it could even be said that she was quite intelligent. She controlled a huge energy empire. When Chao Yin technology was just starting out, when Fong Yin left Huacheng because of mourning, she relied on her own strength to deal with various forces and encountered countless attacks and assassinations. Until now, she was still alive, and she made Chao Yin technology grow rapidly. Although it had the support of the Qin family behind it, if it didn't have a powerful ship commander, could this commercial giant ship expand so drastically? Lu Chaoga was not weak. Perhaps in many people's hearts, she was known as a schemer. It was also for this reason that he had some conflicts with Fong Yin back then. Fong Yin felt that he was being used, so he rationally distanced himself from the relationship between the two of them, positioning Lu Chaoga as an ordinary friend or business partner. But did he do it? Could he accept Lu Chaoga's selfless sacrifice as a matter of course? Could he take everything she gave him without any scruples? Tangible assets or intangible power? Could he simply and crudely close his eyes and ignore Lu Chaoga, who was living a lonely life? Apart from herself, she had no other relatives in this world, not even a single friend. If he pushed her away, what would happen to Lu Chaoga in the future? Could she still live as usual? Could she still live? The sweat on Fong Yin's forehead increased and became denser. He clenched and unclenched his fists, loosened and clenched them again. He couldn't do it. Fong Yin couldn't take it for granted, couldn't be unscrupulous, couldn't be simple and crude, and couldn't let Lu Chaoga live alone, like an orphan. Whoosh! Fong Yin suddenly pushed the chair away and stood up. He strode toward the stairs, his speed getting faster and faster. He rushed to the second floor and rushed to the door of Lu Chaoga's room. Bang, bang, bang. Fong Yin knocked hard on the door. The door was closed, and no one answered. Lu Chaoga, open the door. Open the door. The door was still closed, and the person inside seemed to have disappeared. Lu Chaoga, open the door for me. If you don't open the door, I'll hit the door. As Fong Yin spoke, his body slammed heavily against the door. Fong Yin was an expert in the martial arts world. Although the heart of Tai Chi had disappeared, he was still an expert, an expert, an expert. Under his heavy impact, even though the door of the villa was made of solid wood, it couldn't withstand it. Kacha! The door broke, and an irregular hole appeared in the middle. The lock was broken, and the door opened. Fong Yin rushed into Lu Chaoga's room and shouted, Lu Chaoga, Lu Chaoga, not in the living room, not in the bedroom, not in the balcony, not in the bathroom. Fong Yin's heart sank. He ran outside and shouted, Lu Chaoga, Lu Chaoga, Lu Chaoga, where are you? Lu Chaoga, come out quickly. He clearly saw her go upstairs. So how did she suddenly disappear? Fong Yin searched all the rooms on the second floor, and then ran to the rooftop of the third floor. When he ran to the third floor, Lu Chaoga was standing on the rooftop with her back facing the railing. She looked at the anxious Fong Yin running over. Her shoulders twitched, and tears streamed down her face. When I was 5, I liked to play hide and seek with other children. Lu Chaoga's eyes were wet, and she said in a choked voice, "Once, I ran to the abandoned laundry box in the attic to hide, and my friends couldn't find me. After the sky turned dark, they all went home. I fell asleep in there alone." Lu Xiaoga looked up at the sky, trying her best not to let her tears fall. She tried her best not to let Fong Yin see her crying, because when she cried, her whole face was red, and she felt that she was very, very ugly at that time. Later, I was woken up by my parents' shouts. "They called me just like you did just now." They were worried that I would disappear. That was the deepest memory I have of them. After they left, there was no one else. No one was worried that I would suddenly disappear, and no one was like you just now, looking for me and shouting my name loudly. Lu Chaoga's crying became louder and louder. She shyly covered her face with her hands, and the flood of tears flowed out from the gaps between her fingers. "Fong Yin," Lu Chaoga's voice was sorrowful, and she said, "Don't leave me alone. Otherwise, I don't know why I'm still alive." "You idiot woman." Fong Yan's eyes were blood red. He strode over and hugged Lu Chaoga's trembling body tightly in his arms. "Live, of course you have to live. If you don't know why you're alive, then live for me." Fong Yan's arms exerted all his strength, almost squeezing Lu Chaoga's plump and soft body into his own. "If you die, what will happen to Chaoyan technology? What about the Rubik's Cube that your parents tried so hard to leave for you? What about the loan to that auntie exchanged your life for? And me? What about me? And me? What about me? If you're not here, who will help me take care of Chaoyan? If you're not here, who can suppress the hatred in Lu Shu's heart? If you're not here, who can help me monitor the ambitions of Lanshan Valley? If you're not here, how can I balance the power of the Qin family? If you're not here, where will I have the capital to fight against a colossus like the General family? Fong Yin, if you're not here, who's going to take care of this villa? If you're not here, who's going to make my favorite food? Who's going to make my favorite cordyceps soup? Fong Yin, kiss me. Lu Chaoga was already out of breath from Fong Yan's embrace, but she still raised her head from Fong Yan's embrace and called out weakly. Fong Yin lowered his head, found Lu Chaoga's lips, and kissed her fiercely. Lu Chaoga also responded forcefully. Their tongues stirred with all their might, fighting passionately. It was as if tomorrow was the end of the world. Fong Yin sucked the sweetness from Lu Chaoga's mouth, and his nose smelled her enchanting body fragrance. Her body was so soft, like a ball of cotton candy. Fong Yan's hands wandered around Lu Chaoga's body, stroking her slender waist, and then moved to her plump and perky buttocks. Because he didn't have much experience, and subconsciously felt that this was a very attractive part, so he rubbed it very hard, almost crushing Lu Chaoga's buttocks. Lu Chaoga's body temperature was also rising. She didn't feel any pain at all. She felt like she was about to melt. Her legs had no strength, so she hooked her arms around Fong Yan's neck, letting Fong Yan bear all her weight. Her mouth was still blocked by Fong Yan's, and their tongues were entangled. Her breath was heavy, emitting a fragrant smell and seductive moans. The sound was longer and longer, and each time more painful than the last was the best aphrodisiac in the world. Because of the excessive passion, the sea of qi in his dantian once again burned. First it was a little bit of starlight, then it became a prairie fire, turning into a vast sea of fire. Fong Yan's face was flushed, his mouth was dry, and he felt like his body was about to explode. He wanted to conquer, he wanted to release, he wanted more softness. Fong Yin suddenly picked up Lu Chaoga's body from the ground, took 2 steps forward, and then pressed her back against the railing on the roof. His hands were no longer satisfied with patrolling her back. He began to attack the front. Rip! He crazily tore the coat on Lu Chaoga's body. The thin fabric was torn to pieces without any resistance. Lu Chaoga's delicate shoulders were exposed, and her snow-white breasts that were bound by her black underwear were also exposed. The black gauze tightly wrapped the two softness, and the black ribbon outlined them into the world's most perfect figure. They were high and swollen, proudly displaying their extreme seduction, even if they wanted to reject it. This large mass of snow-white tenderness stimulated Fong Yan's blood. He let out a roar that sounded like a wild beast seeking a mate. The sky was dark. When Yuya, who had just revealed a corner of her face, saw this scene, she quickly pulled a cloud in front of her to cover her blushing face. Chapter 766. Women often scolded men as animals that thought with their lower bodies. Women would tell countless lies in their lives, but this sentence was absolutely true. However, one thing that needed to be corrected was that most men were animals that thought with their lower bodies, except for those old people who had lost their sexual ability. The fire was burning, and the desire was roaring. Fong Yan's body temperature was getting higher and higher, and his face was getting redder and redder. Even his body had begun to emit a hot smoke. His body and forehead were dripping with sweat, and his hair and clothes were already soaked with sweat. Lu Chaoga, who was being pressed against the railing by Fong Yan, finally noticed Fong Yan's abnormality. She hugged Fong Yan's head that was buried in her chest and asked anxiously, "Fong Yan, what's wrong with you?" Fong Yan hot. Fong Yan's voice was dull, and his tone carried a scorching heat wave. She didn't notice it when she was under the control of lust, but now that she was sober, Lu Chaoga felt a burning pain in her body, as if a red-hot iron was tightly attached to her skin. Her skin was tender and white, especially her chest, which was softer than the softest dough and whiter than the whitest snow. However, after Fong Yan's rough and somewhat violent torment, squeezing, twisting, and burning, her body had already turned green and purple. It looked as if Fong Yan had a penchant for SM, and the beautiful woman at home had just suffered inhumane torture. "Fong Yan, are you okay?" "Let me see." Lu Chaoga wanted to push Fong Yan away, wanting to see what had happened to Fong Yan. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't push Fong Yan away. How could her strength be compared to Fong Yan, who had already fallen into a state of madness? While she was pushing Fong Yan with all her might, Fong Yan desperately moved his body closer to hers. He was a piece of burning coal, and Lu Chaoga's body was the glacier that he longed for. Demand, desperately searching for more. Fong Yan's body knew what it needed, and he was working hard to find it. In this way, Lu Chaoga had to work harder and harder. She couldn't hold down Fong Yan's head. She couldn't push Fong Yan's body away. Her clothes were torn to shreds by Fong Yan. His shirt had long since fallen off without a trace, and the pants underneath were also in shreds. It was difficult to conceal the most private and most enchanting sight. The strap of the black underwear had been torn off because Fong Yan didn't know how to untie it. In other words, he didn't have the time to look for the buttons at the back. With a flick of his finger, the extremely flexible shoulder strap snapped. The broken elastic strap rebounded and hit her smooth and fleshy shoulder, leaving a clear red mark. It wasn't very obvious, and it was difficult to find without light. Fong Yan. Lu Chaoga had already confirmed that something had happened to Fong Yan. She was very worried and hugged Fong Yan's body tightly. She shouted anxiously, "Fong Yan, calm down. Fong Yan, don't be impulsive." Because of the current state of the two of them, Lu Chaoga didn't dare to stop them loudly or ask for help. She could only try to lower her voice to comfort Fong Yan. If the bodyguards in the courtyard were alerted and Fong Ying and Qining ran over, she wouldn't have the face to see them. "Fong Yan, what do you feel uncomfortable? Tell me. You feel uncomfortable there, hot." Fong Yan's voice was dry and hard, as if it was very difficult for him to spit out the word. Right now, Fong Yan was indeed in a very difficult and painful situation. The sea of qi in his dantian spun wildly and turned into a black hole. The large burning sea of fire turned into a fire hole. The fire didn't stop, but rolled up the black hole and continued to burn. It was as if the whole black hole was burning and burned into a red hole. It was as if it could burn through the sky, burn through the sea, and burn people's stomachs out of sight. Fong Yan now felt the burning pain in his stomach. It was 100 times more painful than being pricked by a needle or being stabbed by a knife. It was a continuous pain, and the pain was increasing exponentially. The next pain was always more painful than the previous one. What was worse was that it wouldn't make you feel numb or numb. It was always there, burning your flesh, your bones, every drop of blood and oil in your body. Fong Yin, Lu Chaoga knew that Fong Yin was in pain and asked anxiously, "What can I help you with? I'll get you some water. I'll take you to a cold shower. Your body is very hot. It will burn." Fong Yin didn't seem to hear what Lu Chaoga said. He was just doing what he wanted to do according to his most primitive and wild will. He had already torn off Lu Chaoga's underwear. The silk underwear was simply too fragile. Even if he didn't use any strength, it would still be easily torn to pieces. Lu Chaoga's body was already without any protection. In the process of Fong Yan's persistence, she also understood what Fong Yan needed right now. She stopped struggling and twisting. She just stretched out her arms and gently hugged Fong Yan in her arms. "Fong Yan, if you want, I'll give it to you," Lu Chaoga said in a low voice. "Some things, if the direction was wrong, the more you tried, the worse it would be. For example, the current Fong Yan. Fong Yan was a virgin. He was a virgin. He had no concept of this kind of thing at all. Although he had been baptized by some educational films, the actual battle was still very different from the process of imagination. Lu Chaoga felt Fong Yan's anxiety. She reached out and guided Fong Yan into her body. "Ah!" She softly let out an extremely suppressed moan. The two people's souls and bodies were completely fused together. Fong Yan hesitated a little. He felt that he had entered a strange environment. Then he began to crazily attack like a storm. At this time, Fong Yan was like a burning beast, full of lethality and aggression. When Fong Yan opened his eyes, the room was dark. Only a glimmer of light from the gap between the curtains proved that it should be daytime at this moment, and not night, as he imagined. Fong Yan opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He felt that his throat was filled with sand. Every time he said a word, those words were absorbed by the sand, and he could not spit them out. Fong Yan wanted to get up, but found that all the bones in his body had been removed and cleaned. It was sour, painful, and had a different lubricating feeling than before. He climbed up with difficulty and pulled a pillow to lean against his back. Then, he tried hard to recall what happened last night. Lu Chaoga disappeared, and I went everywhere to look for her. Fong Yan remembered this scene very clearly. He could even remember his anxiety at that time. She was on the rooftop, and I hugged her. I seemed to have taken off her clothes, and I kissed her chest. Her chest was very white, and her breasts were very big. My body was getting hotter and hotter, as if my body was about to explode. Creak. The door of the room was gently pushed open. Fong Ying tiptoed in, closed the door, and turned around. His eyes met with Fong Yan, who was sitting on the bed. Fong Ying's expression was strange, and then he rushed over with a face full of surprise, hugged Fong Yan, and cried, "Junior Marshal Uncle, you finally woke up. I was worried to death. I was really afraid that you would never wake up again. If that was the case, how would we live? I was also afraid that after you woke up, you would become a vegetable, and you would need someone to take care of you. Fong Haoan is stupid and lazy. He definitely wouldn't be able to do such a thing. At that time, the responsibility of taking care of you would fall on me alone. You say, why is my life so bitter?" Fong Yan stared straight at Fong Yan and said, "I slept for a long time." "Not very long." Fong Ying wiped his tears and said with red eyes, "I only slept for 3 days. 3 days. Fong Yan's head began to ache. He thought it was something that happened last night. How did he sleep for 3 days? In these 3 days, what happened? Yes, you slept for 3 days. We were all worried. Junior Marshal Uncle, don't be anxious. We can take our revenge slowly. I know that you're under a lot of pressure. I know that you want to avenge the family head as soon as possible. I know what the heart of Tai Chi means to you. The disappearance of the heart of Tai Chi. We are even more anxious than you are. But you must stay calm. You are the head of our Fong family. The head of the family is no longer here, and the teacher hasn't returned. If something unexpected happens to you, how can the teacher and my mother's bodies bear it? Our whole family, we've all broken up. Without you, would the Fong family still be the Fong family?" Fong Yan looked at Fong Ying with dull eyes and said, "Is my situation very serious?" "Very serious." Fong Ying nodded very seriously. "When we saw you, you were lying there naked. Look at your eyebrows, your beard. They were all burnt. Your hair was standing up like a roasted hedgehog. I was really scared at the time. I thought that you had gone mad from practicing. Junior martial uncle, the heart of Tai Chi is all about naturalness. Don't forcefully touch it, otherwise you will be harmed. You, where did you see me? Fang Yin asked in a low voice. This was the question he was more concerned about. On the balcony of the third floor. Fang Yingying looked at Fang Yin thoughtfully and said, Junior martial uncle, this time's explosion was even more powerful than last time. Last time you only blew up your own clothes. This time you blew up Sister Lu's clothes. Chapter 767. Fang Yingying didn't notice the change in Fang Yan's expression. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. Junior martial uncle, did you realize something again? Did your heart of Tai Chi come back to life? I knew it. Last time, it was because of the resonance with Mr. Music Addict's music that your clothes exploded. Is this the same as last time? Where did you and Sister Lu resonate? After a pause, Fang Yingying looked at Fang Yan with a puzzled expression and said, Junior martial uncle, why are you looking at me like that? What kind of expression should I look at you with? You just recovered from a serious illness and just woke up. Shouldn't you be very happy and excited to see me? Your only family? I'm very happy. Fang Yin nodded and said, That's good. Fang Yingying was relieved and continued his path of seeking death. You haven't answered my question yet. Where did you resonate with Sister Lu? You have to answer this question honestly, because I have a bet with Qining. A bet. Fang Yan's eyelids drooped, and he asked aloud. Yes, I said that Junior martial uncle must have realized something about life and nature when he was talking with Miss Lu. That's why the sudden explosion happened. Not only did his clothes explode, but Miss Lu, who was standing with you, was also affected. Qining said there was more to this matter. It was definitely not as simple as the heart of Tai Chi coming back to life. I asked him what the secret was, but he couldn't tell me clearly. Fang Yin looked at Fang Yingying and asked in a hoarse voice, Fang Yingying, what do you want to know? I don't want to know anything. Fang Yingying's expression stiffened and he said, Junior martial uncle, you and Miss Lu, are you okay? Fang Yin was silent. Fang Yingying was a very smart man. He must have guessed something. The Jews say that there are 3 things which cannot be concealed: a cough, poverty, and love. The more you hide it, the more obvious they will be. The more you want to stop coughing, the more you will cough. The relationship between Fang Yin and Lu Chaoge was like a coughing fit that the two of them were desperately trying not to expose themselves. That endless concern, that considerate and warm care, that softness when they looked at each other, that probing and telepathic connection between their words. How could all of these be completely concealed? Fang Yingying could see it, Qining could see it, and so could the others. Lu Chaoge visited Lu Gong several times a year with a whole team of guards. Didn't those people have any doubts? What about her? Fang Yin asked. After he woke up, he didn't see Lu Chaoge. Did something happen to her too? Sister Lu went to the company early in the morning. She's been very busy lately. I was supposed to go out with her, but she asked me to stay and watch over you. She said to call her as soon as you wake up. Sister Lu works very hard every day. She works very late every day before coming back. Fang Yin nodded. He could understand the intensity of Lu Chaoge's work. She was the one in charge of the huge Chaoyan technology. Although the Qin family also sent a large number of elites, they were still the elites of the Qin family. She had to use their abilities and guard against their ambitions. How to balance the two was a very difficult thing in itself. Besides, the energy industry was becoming more and more prosperous, and Chaoyan technology was also changing with each passing day. As Chaoyan's industrial layout grew larger and wider, Lu Chaoge would have more and more things to do. Although there was a saying that the superior had to work hard, at least you had to have reliable people around you. Chaoyan technology was a high-end energy industry, and the Rubik's Cube technology was the life of the entire Chaoyan. From the day Chaoyan was established until now, it had only been a few years. In such a short period of time, who was the confidant you could really trust? It took time to do things, and it also took time to judge people. Do you want to call Sister Lu and tell her you're awake? Fang Yingying asked. Fang Yin shook his head and said, No need. Junior martial uncle, Go get me a glass of water. Okay, Junior Marshal Uncle. Fang Yingying trotted to Fang Yin and poured a glass of cold water. Fang Yin took the glass and drank it in one gulp. He looked at Fang Yingying and said, I'll take care of it. I know. Fang Yingying nodded repeatedly. I have faith in Junior Marshal Uncle. There's nothing in this world that you can't take care of. Song transplanting rice was so bad *SS, but didn't he get killed by Junior Marshal Uncle with one shot? Fang Yin waved his hand and said, I'm going to rest for a bit. You can go now. Okay, call me if you need anything. Fang Yingying got up and left. When he got to the door, he turned around and looked at Fang Yin. He blinked his big eyes and said, Junior Marshal Uncle, although I've done something like informing Missy before, you have to believe in my character. I definitely won't betray you this time. Scram. Fang Yin said. Okay. I'll scram right now. Fang Yingying turned around and ran away like a fat rabbit. Fang Yin put the cup of water on the bedside table and began to think of a solution to this matter. I should talk to her first, Fang Yin thought. When Fang Yin heard the car outside, he knew that Lu Chaoga was back. He got up from the bed and peeked through the gap in the curtains. Fang Yingying ran like a lackey to help open the door. Lu Chaoga, who was wearing a silver uniform, came down from the RV. She first stretched out a foot, then her slender, plump, and beautiful leg. Her hair draped over her shoulders, and the tail of her long hair formed a phoenix tail shape. Her facial features were delicate and flawless. Her skin was as cold as snow, and the tailored uniform cleverly outlined her curvaceous body. She was charming and had an excellent temperament. This woman, Fang Yin thought. She became her own woman. Lu Chaoga walked to the middle of the courtyard, stopped, and looked at Fang Yin's room on the second floor. Fang Yin knew that she couldn't see him, but he could still feel that their eyes met in the air. He didn't have to wait too long before Lu Chaoga pushed the door open and came in. She looked at Fang Yin, who was sitting on the living room sofa with a cup of tea, and asked, Are you feeling better? Much better. Fang Yin's throat was still a bit uncomfortable. After drinking a cup of water, he dampened the sand a bit, but the sand was still in his mouth. When he spoke, he could feel the sand rubbing against the inner wall of his mouth. You were in a bad situation. I don't know Kung Fu, so I don't know what happened. Lu Chaoga spoke very slowly, carefully choosing her words in her mind. She tried her best to avoid mentioning that incident, but there were some things that needed to be explained. Your body suddenly exploded, and you suddenly fell to the ground. I was very worried, so I called Hero and the others to help. I know. Fang Yin nodded and pushed the brewed tea in front of Lu Chaoga. You slept for 3 days. I know. Lu Chaoga held the teacup and drank the water, not knowing what to say. Fang Yin also held the teacup and drank the water. His body was like barren soil, needing a lot of water to nourish it. Since he woke up, he had drunk 8 cups of water. The two of them didn't say anything, and the room was quiet. In the past, Fang Yingying and Qining liked to play around in the courtyard, but today they noticed something and also became quiet. The whole world was quiet. Fang Yin slowly finished the cup of tea, put the cup in his hand on the coffee table, looked at Lu Chaoga and said, I know, before the explosion, something else happened. Fang Yin, Lu Chaoga hurriedly stopped him. I did all of this voluntarily. I don't want to make things difficult for you. I know you have a woman you like, I know you're going to get married, but I still can't control my emotions, and I still don't want to give up. Everything is my fault. Don't take it to heart. Let bygones be bygones. I can't, Fang Yin said, shaking his head. Lu Chaoga's face was full of guilt and self-blame, and said, Fang Yin, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I lost control of my emotions at that time, and that's why the things that happened later happened. It's my fault. I'm still blaming myself. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have burdened your heart. Please, pretend that nothing has happened. Pretend that it's all a dream. When you wake up, pretend that nothing has happened. Pretend that it's all a dream. Okay. Fang Yin, I beg you. I know your choice. I don't want to hurt anyone. Don't say you're sorry. Fang Yin looked at Lu Chaoga with a serious expression and said, I've thought about it. I like you. Fang Yin, so, don't blame yourself. I'm the one who should blame myself. Don't say you're sorry. I'm the one who should apologize. But I won't pretend that nothing happened, and I can't pretend that it was a dream. Although there was an explosion in the end, I was awake when I hugged you, I was awake when I kissed you, even when we had sex, I still had my own consciousness. I know what I did, and I know why I did it. I won't blame everything on the natural combustion of the heart of Tai Chi, and I can't blame my own selfishness and cowardice. That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to me. I like you. Fang Yin looked at Lu Chaoga and said with a serious expression, "From now on, you are my woman." Chapter 768. From now on, you are my woman. This slightly domineering statement moved Lu Xiaoga to the point where tears welled up in his eyes. All the guilt and self-blame in her heart, the indescribable grievances, and the questioning and judgment of her character, all kinds of emotions blocked her heart, making it difficult for her to breathe. However, Fang Yan's "I like you" was like a powerful bomb, blowing all the negative emotions in her body into pieces and then disappeared without a trace. Fang Yin was unconscious for 3 days, but Lu Chaoga suffered for 3 days. She looked forward to Fang Yin waking up, but she was afraid that Fang Yin would wake up, because she didn't know how to face Fang Yin next. She wanted to give herself more time to prepare, so she handed Fang Yin to Fang Yingying and asked him to watch over Fang Yin. She also asked him to call her as soon as Fang Yin woke up. She was afraid that when Fang Yin woke up and saw her first, both of them wouldn't know how to break that moment of awkwardness. She avoided it first, and when she came back, at least she had made enough preparation and thought about what to say. She understood Fang Yan's choice, and she also knew her position, and she could only treat it as a dream. This was her destiny. In the past, in the future, she would be alone forever. However, the development of things was beyond her expectation. Fang Yin didn't escape. He didn't fear. He didn't pretend to have amnesia. He remembered everything, and he was willing to bear all the responsibility. He was willing to bear it with her. In this kind of thing, it is always men who take advantage. Men are cowardly and run away, and then let women bear all the blame and consequences. Fang Yin looked at Lu Chaoga and said with an unprecedented serious expression, "You also know that I am not a man who refuses to take advantage of others. My code of conduct and moral bottom line have always been very low, but I won't deny it, and I can't deny it. I won't pretend that nothing happened. As I told you just now, I like you, and you're my woman now. I like your beauty, I like your figure, I like your sexiness, I like your intelligence, I like how you remember every dish I like to eat, and I like how you treat me well. I need you, and Chaoyan also needs you. I don't want you to be alone. I have experienced that feeling. During the 3 years when I was guarding my father's grave, I almost didn't talk to anyone else. I felt that I was the only living being in this world. No one to share your happiness, no one to comfort you when you're sad, but in fact, I know that I have people who really care and care about me. My mother is still here, my grandfather is still here, and all of you are still here. My loneliness is something I have forced upon myself because every single one of them wants me to come home as soon as possible. But you're different. If you're lonely, then you're truly lonely. I cannot bear to let you live like this alone, without even a little support and warmth in your heart. I like you, and you like me, and we had sex, so you don't have to apologize and blame yourself anymore. If you need to apologize and blame yourself, then let me do it. Whether you did anything wrong or not, you are my woman now. So you should let me bear all of this. Fang Yin, this will make things very difficult for you. I know you are in a difficult position in the middle. Fang Yin reached out to grab Lu Chaoga's hand and said, "Everything is difficult, but I still have to do it. Only by doing my best can I not let down the deep love you have for me." Fang Yin, actually, you don't have to do anything. I've already thought it through. I'll stay in Huaqing for the rest of my life. I'll live in this apartment. I'll help you look after Chaoyan. I'll help you make it the biggest energy company in the world. If you're willing, give me a child. If you are not willing, I will live here alone. I will have a lot of things to do. I will be very busy every day. Lu Chaoga held Fang Yan's hand tightly and said, "I understand your feelings. I know you are there. You also like me." He didn't leave. At that time, "I won't feel lonely." Fang Yan shook his head and said, "Leave this matter to me. I will take care of it." After a pause, Fang Yin said, "I will talk to her." Seeing the worry on Lu Chaoga's face, Fang Yin comforted her. Don't worry. Wen Qing is a very good person. I'm afraid that she will hit you, Lu Chaoga said in a small voice. Fang Yin exploded again. Just like the last time at the Maple Leaf Club in Beijing, his clothes had exploded and he had run around in a circle with his buttocks bare. This time, his situation was a bit better than last time. First, when his clothes exploded, he wasn't standing in the middle of the crowd. Secondly, at the moment his clothes exploded, he was already naked. Therefore, this result of the explosion was acceptable to Fang Yin. However, after the explosion, Fang Yin couldn't help but think about another question. Why did it explode? Just like Fang Yingying's question, did I explode because I realized something? Or could it be that he had unlocked some new skills? After he woke up, he carefully tried to feel the heart of Tai Chi. Still, nothing happened. What was different was that the unbearably hot gas in the middle of his Qi Si was gone. In other words, even if Fang Yin wanted to forcibly use his Qi, he wouldn't have to endure the pain of being burned. Fang Yin's Qi Si also disappeared along with the volcano. That's right, Fang Yin's Qi Si also disappeared. The area became empty and became a deep, transparent hole. Strangely, the Tai Chi fish were still there. The black and white Tai Chi fish swam back and forth in the transparent hole, as if they were alive. However, was this change good or bad? Why hadn't the heart of Tai Chi awakened yet? These days, Fang Yin had been thinking about this question, but because he didn't have the experience of others, he couldn't figure out which one was right. Loan to building. A champagne-colored Bentley stopped in front of the building. The bodyguard in the passenger seat quickly jumped out to open the door for the man in the back seat, but the man had already opened the door and got out. General Xing looked up at the majestic building in front of him and said to Li Guochang, who was beside him, I came here a few years ago. At that time, Longtu Group was like the sun in the sky, and it was the most promising energy industry in the whole of Huaqing. After a few years, Longtu Group has become a thing of the past. On the other hand, Chaoyan Technology, which was established not long ago, is thriving and has become the leading energy company in Huaqing and even the whole of Huaxia. Li Guochang sighed softly and said, Kang Long Tan was an ambitious and ruthless person, but he didn't expect that he would die in such a humiliating way, and his only son would be sent to prison. I have to say, Fang Yin is really ruthless. It's fine if he doesn't make a move, but once he does, he tortures people to death. The Jiang family has completely collapsed. Other than Longtu Group, the other properties of the family have been cleanly divided up by others. It said that the Rin family wanted to get involved, but one of their legs was broken by Fang Yin. Only that poor woman, Rin Jin, begged everywhere to get her son out of prison. The problem is, who would get her face now? Jiang Zhulu can only sit in prison for a long time. General Xing shook his head and said, the flag on top of the city wall will be changed. I don't know if the flag of our Jiang family can be placed on top of the city wall of Longta Group. Li Guochang smiled and said, it depends on whether Miss Shangxin remembers the old times. No matter what, she has the blood of the Jiang family flowing in her veins. No matter how she denies it, she's a member of the Jiang family. As long as she agrees, things can be done. After all, the power of Longtu Group is in her hands now. She owns the shares of both Jiang Zhulu and herself, so she has a lot of say. It's hard to say. General Xing shook his head and said, what? Does Senior Master not think highly of this trip? If she has the intention to return. General Xing pointed to the building in front of him and said, does she need to set the meeting place here? Isn't she just worried that Fang Yin's men will find out and misunderstand? Maybe it's to appease Fang Yin? Miss Shangxin's way of doing things is sly and changeable. It's really hard for us to guess her intentions before we meet her. Yes, we came with sincerity. Let's see if she knows what's good for her. General Xing smiled and said, after Jiang Junling was banished and disappeared, General Xing was the most important young man in the Jiang family. He was the person who carried the flag of the Jiang family. He personally came to Huaqing to meet Jiang Shangxin. Jiang Shangxin naturally couldn't put on airs and brought her secretary to the elevator to welcome him. Brother, Jiang Shangxin went forward and held on to General Xing's arm happily. She smiled and said, Why are you willing to come to Huaqing to see me? General Xing looked at his younger sister, who was getting more and more beautiful. He sighed and thought that Jiang Zhulu was really unlucky. Since you don't want to return to the Yin capital, I can only come to Huaqing to see you. Why? Are you not willing? Of course I'm willing. Jiang Shangxin smiled and said, It's best if you can stay in Huaqing in the future. In that case, we can see each other often. I want to stay in Huaqing, but I have to get Grandpa's permission first. Moreover, Shangxin is guarding Huaqing for us. As her brother, it doesn't matter if I'm around or not. Am I right? Jiang Shangxin giggled, but didn't respond to General Xing's words. Miss Shangxin, long time no see. Li Guiqiang also greeted Jiang Shangxin with a face full of smiles. They were already familiar with each other in the Yin capital. Guiqiang, long time no see. You seem to be looking good recently. Miss Shangxin's complexion is really good, and she's getting more and more beautiful. What's that saying again? A person is more beautiful than a flower. Isn't that right? Chapter 769. The three of them sat down in Jiang Shangxin's office. The secretary served them tea and left respectfully, not forgetting to close the office door. Jiang Shangxin looked at Li Guiqiang and said with a smile, If someone else were to praise me like this, I would think that they were trying to flatter me. However, I don't think that Brother Guiqiang is a man who likes to lie. Brother Guiqiang, you are getting married soon, right? I heard from Wang Pei and the rest that you and Jiang Yuzhen are getting married soon. The women from the Jiang family are not bad, right? Li Guiqiang smiled blissfully and said, That depends on whether young master agrees. If he agrees, we can get married tomorrow. Li Guiqiang wanted to marry into the Jiang family. He was determined to follow the general. General Xing waved his hand and said, If I could make the decision, I would let you guys get married tomorrow. However, the elders in the family should speak for such matters. Furthermore, you guys have only been engaged for a few days. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by others? What's there to laugh at? It's natural for me to be anxious to marry a wife. The three of them chatted and laughed for a while. The atmosphere became livelier and the barrier in everyone's hearts gradually disappeared. Li Guiqiang then went into the main topic. He looked at Jiang Shangxin and asked, Shangxin, are you going to settle down in Huaqing? Jiang Shangxin knew that everyone was going to be honest with each other. Leaning back slightly, she crossed her right leg over her left leg and got into a defensive stance. Smiling, she said, How can you be so sure about such things? However, now that transportation is so advanced, what's the difference where I stay? Even if I stay in Los Angeles, I can get to Yinjing in the blink of an eye. Li Guiqiang knew that Jiang Shangxin was avoiding the core of his question and didn't want to hide it anymore. He took the initiative to get to the point and said, Shangxin, what do you think if the Jiang family buys the shares of the Longtu corporation that you are holding? Logically speaking, this is a private matter of the Jiang family. As an outsider, I shouldn't interfere. However, didn't Shangxin say that Yuzhen and I are getting married soon? We will be a family in the future. Even blood brothers should settle accounts clearly, and it's the same for blood siblings. If you have any conditions, please state them. I believe that the eldest young master and the Jiang family will do their best to satisfy your reasonable requests. Brother Guiqiang, aren't you treating me like an outsider? You've already said that we're a family. What's the difference between me taking control of the Longtu group and the family taking control of the Longtu group? Am I not a member of the Jiang clan? Jiang Shangxin's words were sharp, and he did not dare to admit defeat easily. I said the wrong thing. Li Guiqiang patted his mouth lightly and said with a smile, Of course Shangxin is a member of the Jiang family. It was like that in the past, and it would always be like that. Was there a more intimate relationship than the inheritance of flesh and blood? However, Shangxin had misunderstood my intentions. When I said that the Jiang family wants to buy the shares of Longtu Group from you, it was to compensate you personally. You married in a flower city on your own, and you've experienced many things. It wasn't easy for a girl to maintain the family business by herself. She was a member of the Jiang family, so she could give everything she had to the Jiang family for free. But it's not fair to you. Young master must not feel good about it either. Don't you think so? Brother Guiqiang, I didn't misunderstand your intentions. I just feel that it's strange. Since you said that I'm a member of the Jiang family, then can't I just take care of the Longta group? Why do we have to talk about buying it and giving it away? Don't tell me that the Jiang family suspects that I'm not on the same side as them and will do something that will harm the Jiang family's interests? Li Guiqiang took a glance at General Xing and thought to himself, this sister of yours is very difficult to deal with. General Xing continued to drink his tea with a smile on his face, as if he hadn't heard the conversation between the two of them. Seeing that General Xing did not speak, Li Guiqiang had no choice but to continue negotiating with Jiang Shangxin. He said, Shangxin, you know the current situation very well. The Jiang family and Fang Yin are like fire and water. The old master would rather chase Jiang Junling out of the Jiang family than propose a reconciliation. Do you really want to stand on Fang Yan's side and become enemies with the Jiang family? This is a matter between the Jiang family and Fang Yan. I'm only in charge of taking care of my Longta group. There's no conflict, right? However, most of the shares in the Longta group are in the hands of Fang Yin and the rest. Li Guiqiang looked at Jiang Shangxin's gentle and charming face and said, the reason why you're able to sit firmly in the position of Longta group is because of Fang Yan's trust, right? So, just because I have Fang Yan's trust, and because Fang Yin asked me to manage the Longta group, I can't manage the Longta group for the sake of the Jiang family. I need to let go of everything that I have now. That's not what we meant. Li Guiqiang denied this statement and said, even if you sell the shares to the Jiang family will still appoint you to be in charge of the affairs of the Longta group. This is because it should have been yours to begin with. What if Fang Yin doesn't agree at that time? Li Guiqiang grinned and said, that will depend on how you consider it. Jiang Shangxin's gaze stopped on General Xing's face. She smiled and said, big brother, how do you think I should answer this question? General Xing couldn't remain a bystander anymore since Shangxin had forcefully dragged him into this. He looked at Jiang Shangxin and said sincerely, you haven't been back to the Swallow capital for a while. Grandpa wanted to have a good talk with you, but he didn't want to call you back just because of this. He knows that you have been busy recently. However, everyone in the Jiang family still treats you as a member of the Jiang family. Jiang Shangxin looked at Jiang Shangxin and said sincerely, you haven't been back to the Swallow capital for a while. I know that you have some prejudices against the Jiang family. I know some of those things, and there are some things that I don't know about. However, just because you have conflicts and prejudices, are you no longer a member of the Jiang family? Are you prepared to stand on the opposite side of the Jiang family on your own? Have you thought about the future? The battle between the Jiang family and Fang Yin. It seems like Fang Yin had the upper hand in the beginning. However, at that time, his opponent was only Jiang Junling, a member of the Jiang family. Now, a long time ago, his opponent was the Jiang family, the entire Jiang family. Based on Grandpa's character, would he tolerate Fang Yin slapping the Jiang family's faces and kicking their butts? General Xing's gaze was sincere and his attitude was amiable. With a worried look, he said, you have a good relationship with Fang Yin, and Fang Yin supports you in controlling Longtu. In the short term, this is very beneficial to you. However, when the Jiang family really launches an attack on Fang Yin, when the Jiang family tramples on Fang Yin, what will you do then? Shangxin, you can reject me. You can also tell me that you will consider it again. However, have you thought about how you will answer Grandpa's question if he personally talks to you about it? Seeing that Jiang Shangxin was silent, General Xing patted her shoulder and stood up. He said, I still need to stay in Huacheng for 2 more days. You have 2 days to consider. Shangxin, no matter what, we are a family. Your surname is Jiang, and the blood of the Jiang family flows in your body. General Xing looked at Li Guiqiang and smiled. Guiqiang, let's go back first. Let Shangxin have some peace and quiet, okay? Li Guiqiang stood up as well. He looked at Jiang Shangxin and said, Miss Shangxin, don't put yourself in danger. It is not easy for women to do things, and it is even more difficult to do things well. Think about it. Fang Yin has only been working hard for a few years. How can he be compared to the Jiang family, who have lived for hundreds of years? If the Jiang family really wants to take action, it is just a matter of charging forward. I will consider it carefully. Jiang Shangxi nodded and said. Jiang Shangxin stood up and sent General Xing and Li Guoqiang to the elevator. General Xing turned around and looked at Jiang Shangxin. He said, Shangxin, the Jiang family owes you an official apology. In the past, I stood up and said this to you on behalf of the Jiang family. I am sorry. In the past, the Jiang family let you down. In the future, it will not happen again. Jiang Junling waved his hand and said, You don't have to send me off. I know that you have been very busy recently. The elevator door closed. Jiang Shangxin was still standing at the entrance of the elevator in a daze. Could the Jiang family still be trusted now? Fang Haohan had been living a happy life, but Li had been living a miserable life. Fang Haohan was happy because he could be by Li Ye's side all day, but Li was unhappy because Fang Haohan had to be by her side all day. She had wanted to chase Fang Haohan back many times, but her godfather, Du Qing, did not agree to it. He said that Fang Haohan was an expert that he had specially hired to protect her. Looking at Fang Haohan's skinny body, he really did not look powerful. The typhoon season in Huaqing was coming. If there was a slightly stronger typhoon, Fang Haohan would probably be blown away, right? Li started to look forward to the arrival of the typhoon season in Huaqing. Ever since the Qing-Hong internal conflict, Du Qing rarely took care of the Qingyun Corporation's matters. Some of the specific matters were handed over to Li Ye and her subordinates. She would only show her face when faced with major decisions. Therefore, Li was very busy. She had just attended a banquet and was preparing to return to the company to handle some matters. She sat in the back seat of the Mercedes-Benz while Fang Haohan sat in the front passenger seat. Xiaoya, if you're tired, close your eyes and have a good rest. Fang Haohan, who was sitting in the front row, said gently, You have worked for 13 hours and 25 minutes straight today. Fang Haohan, Xiaoya, feel free to speak your mind. Although I am your bodyguard, I am more willing to be your nanny. I want you to promise me something. Not to mention one, even 10,000 will do. Don't call me Xiaoya. Chapter 770. Why can't I call you Xiaoya? Fang Haohan's face was filled with confusion as he asked. Because I don't like it, Li said snappily. She was really going crazy. Just who was this man? I already said that I don't like you. Why do you always don't understand? But Fang Haohan's face was filled with grievance and said, I can't just call you my wife, right? Isn't that not good? Li only felt a surge of hot blood rushing to her head. If she had a kitchen knife in her hand, she would definitely chop up Fang Haohan, this idiotic and narcissistic ribs, and make soup. She would not drink that pot of soup. She would feed it to the dogs. Tell me, how could there be such a hateful man in this world? Wife. Are you kidding? Who would want to be your wife? Liu was tall and beautiful, and was at the best age for a woman. She was the goddaughter of Qing Hong and Du Qing, and was now in charge of all the affairs of the Azure Cloud Group. Whether it was the disciples of Elder Qing Hong or the rich young masters outside, they all admired and flattered her. There were many men by her side, and there were countless outstanding men. Although there were no other men who could move her heart, but it was impossible for her to marry a weirdo like Fang Haohan, right? Leah tried her best to calm the anger in her heart, and looked at Fang Haohan with a serious expression, and said, Fang Haohan, just call me a hero. Fang Haohan grinned. That's what my friends call me. The friends Fang Haohan was referring to as Fang Yingying, because only Fang Yingying called him a hero, and he also called Fang Yingying a hero. Every time they called each other's names, there would be a wonderful feeling that there were only two heroes in the world. Fang Haohan. Of course, Liu would not call him a hero. In her heart, Fang Haohan and a hero were not even close. In fact, they couldn't even be compared to the outstanding people in Green Red Army, who had dense tattoos all over their bodies, drank wine and ate meat, used gunny sacks to store money, and shot people with bullets. I know, you are Fang Yan's junior. He is my junior martial uncle. Fang Haohan said proudly. Yes, I know. He is your junior martial uncle. I don't care what your relationship is. When Leah spoke, there was a sense of anger as she gritted her teeth and said, I know. My godfather values Fong Yin very much, and values the cooperation with him very much. So, when something happened to Qing Hong some time ago, he asked Fong Yin to help, and asked you to protect us. You were supposed to be by my godfather's side. But his health hasn't been good recently, so most of Qing Yun's affairs have been taken care of by me. Godfather was worried that I would go to the company alone, so he sent you to follow by my side. I am very willing to protect you. Fong Haohan looked at Liya with a face full of love. This move was taught to him by Fong Yingying. Fong Yingying told him that a strong woman would become a clingy man, and when dealing with a woman, he had to be clingy. Of course, when doing this kind of thing, he had to be skillful. Words of love were like throwing them out without any cost. No matter what her reaction was, he had to act affectionate, as if he was thinking that way in his heart, and that he was a man who loved her deeply. Fong Haohan felt that Fong Yingying's teachings were very correct, and he also felt that he had learned very well. Xiaoya, don't worry. As long as I'm here, I won't let anyone hurt you. If the enemy comes, I will definitely use my sturdy chest to block you behind me. Unless I die, and they step over my dead body. Even at that time, my reluctant soul will still hug their legs tightly, so that they won't be able to hurt a single strand of your hair. As expected, Liya's expression changed. From white to red, from red to purple, and from purple to black. She's shy. Fong Haohan thought happily. I've seen a movie called Ghost. It's about a dead lover who has always been by his wife's side. I'm willing to die for you. I'm willing to die for you. But you don't have to worry. Even if I die, I will learn from the male lead in that movie. I will accompany you by your side and protect you. Fong Haohan. The flesh on Liya's face twitched, and her eyelids trembled nonstop. She felt that she was about to convulse, and she felt that she could no longer breathe. Xiaoya. Fong Haohan knew that he was about to succeed, because he saw that Liya's emotions were very agitated. Even when she called his name, her voice was trembling. Oh, that trembling voice. Her trembling voice was so pleasant to hear. Fong Haohan, tell me, what will make you willing to leave? Xiaoya, I will not leave you. State your conditions. Liya said, money or women? I can help you arrange it. Xiaoya, do you still not understand my heart? My only hope is to accompany you by your side. I don't have any conditions. I don't want money. I don't want women. No, I want women. I only want you. If you are willing, state your conditions. How can I be with you forever? Xiaoya, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Liya took a few deep breaths. Forcefully, aggrievedly, with tears in her eyes, she swallowed the crazy anger and the urge to kill, looked at Fong Haohan and said, I know I can't chase you away. I know my godfather doesn't want you to leave, but I beg you when you're by my side, don't speak. Don't let me hear your voice. It's best if you don't even breathe. Don't appear in front of me, not even a shadow. Protect me in the dark. Protect me in the other car. Am I begging you? Is that okay? That's not good, is it? Fong Haohan. Fong Haohan thought about it seriously and said, all right. As long as it's your request, I won't refuse. He shouted to the driver beside him. Stop the car. Stop the car. The car pulled over. Fong Haohan pushed the door open and was about to get out of the car, but he retracted his head, looked at Liya, who was sitting in the back seat, and asked, Then what should I call you? Liya. Is that so? All right, Liya. Fong Haohan nodded, then grinned and said, I will watch you silently from the car behind. Drive. Liya gave the order with a cold expression. As the car left, Fong Haohan stood on the green belt by the side of the road and waved his hand. A black Volkswagen stopped beside him. There were originally 2 cars following Liya. One of them was her car, and Fong Haohan was supposed to be sitting in the front passenger seat. The other car was a secret guard. This car did not reveal anything, but followed behind Liya's car at a moderate distance. In the black Volkswagen, other than a driver, there were 2 bodyguards in black. These 2 people were both Qing Hong's experts, and also Du Qing's trusted aides. Because there was already someone sitting in the front passenger seat, Fong Haohan opened the back door and got in. Seeing that the 3 men in the car were all looking at him strangely, Fong Haohan waved his hand indifferently and said, You insisted on inviting me to a movie. In this kind of situation, can I go to a crowded place like a movie theater? This kind of Missy's temper needs to be taught a lesson. Of course, don't tell her this kind of thing anymore. After all, Xiaoya's personality is not bad, and she has good intentions. Girls are thin-skinned. You guys understand. We understand. We understand. The younger man with a crew cut chuckled and agreed. The middle-aged man with an unshaven beard glanced at Fong Haoen and said, "Miss is sitting alone in the car in front. Will anything happen? She should be fine." Fong Haoen said with a smile, "Aren't the few of us still following behind her? If there's an accident, we can rush over in a few seconds." The middle-aged man looked at Fong Haoen worriedly, but did not say anything. He did not know where Fong Haoen came from, but it was said that Boss Du Qing invited him from the outside. An expert. Expert? Gu Huitu and his brothers have been secretly suspicious of Fong Haoen's identity. With his figure, he looked like he could be blown away by a gust of wind. How could he be considered an expert? Why do the experts these days have such serious water leakage? However, since it was Boss Du Qing's arrangement, they could not say much. They had followed Du Qing to conquer the world, and after decades, they had a kind of worship for Du Qing. Being able to survive in such a harsh environment. Was there anything in this world that Boss Du couldn't predict? The others did not speak, so Fong Haoen did not speak either. He lay on the chair, closed his eyes, and thought about his lyrical performance just now. There should be no problem with his words. He firmly followed Fong Yingying's style of being shameless. There should not be any flaws in his acting and expression. After all, he had been practicing in front of the mirror when he had nothing to do, and he really liked Leah, this little girl. He liked her when he saw her photo. He fell in love with her at first sight. After meeting her, he liked her even more, because Leah was even more beautiful than in the photo. Moreover, he was three-dimensional and could be reached with his hand. Her skin was so white, her breasts were so perky, her smile was so beautiful. She knew how to make tea, she liked to read, and she could handle company matters, Fong Haoen thought. After being cheated by Junior Marshal Uncle Fong Yin for more than 10 years, God finally gave him a huge compensation. But why does Xiaoya look at me so strangely? Fong Haoen tried hard to think of the answer to this question. At this time, Leah's Mercedes-Benz turned around at the traffic light intersection. Just as the Volkswagen was about to follow, a white truck rushed over from the T-junction and crashed into the right side of their carriage. Rumble! A bolt of lightning cut through the sky. While no one was paying attention, the torrential rain poured down from the sky, smashing into the city. Chapter 771. After the explosion, Fong Yin stayed in the villa and didn't go out. His body was still weak, and he still couldn't figure out the state of his body. He couldn't feel any gas in his energy sea, but there were two Tai Chi fish, one black and one white, flying and breathing freely inside. It was as if they were living in a river. Lu Chaoga went to work every day, and when she came back, she would buy a lot of Fong Yan's favorite dishes, then put on an apron and cook personally, a woman who could go to the living room, cook in the kitchen, and sleep in the big bed. Who could imagine that the actual controller of Chaoyan technology, a beauty with a net worth of tens of billions, was willing to make soup for a man at home? Perhaps this was the charm of love. Ever since that honest talk, the two of them never mentioned anything about having a relationship. Of course, they didn't have a second relationship. Their way of getting along was still the same, as usual. Lu Chaoga came back from work to cook, and Fong Yin was responsible for washing the dishes. Or when Lu Chaoga came back from work, Fong Yin had already prepared the meal, and then Lu Chaoga took the initiative to wash the dishes. It was quiet and warm, no different from other small couples' families. Tonight, Fong Yin was cooking, so Lu Chaoga wore an apron and washed the dishes in the kitchen. After Fong Yin made 2 cups of hot tea, he sat on the sofa in the living room and watched TV. The weather was sultry and dark clouds rolled. It looked like there was going to be another rainstorm today. It was no longer the rainy season in Huaqing, but there was still plenty of rain every day. One moment it was sunny, the next it was stormy, and when it was raining, the sun would shine. The people of Huaqing had been tortured by this unpredictable and unreasonable weather. Rumble! When the first bolt of lightning cut through the sky, Fong Yin turned and looked into the courtyard. The entire courtyard was illuminated by the lightning. The green lawn, the deep trees, and the dark iron pillars of the courtyard's gate were all clearly visible. Walala, the heavy rain poured down as if there was a god playing a prank above, pouring basin after basin of water down. What a heavy rain, Fong Yin said to Lu Chaoga, who was busy in the kitchen. Lu Xiaoga took off the dishwashing gloves on his hands, untied the apron around his neck, and put on the clothes hanger. He looked at the glass window that was being hit by the raindrops and said, "The weather forecast said it would rain today." After a pause, she said, "Do you want to call Grandpa? Doesn't his leg hurt when it rains?" Fong Yan's grandfather Fong Hu-wei had been paralyzed for many years, and because he didn't exercise for a long time, he suffered from rheumatism. He used to soak his feet with medicine, and his rheumatism was almost healed. In the past 6 months, Fong Hu-wei had been absent-minded. He was unwilling to soak his feet or let anyone massage him. The last 6 months, Fong Hu-wei was absent-minded. He didn't want to soak his feet, and he didn't want anyone to massage him. Fong Yin had a good talk with him and asked him to soak his feet with the traditional Chinese medicine that he prescribed. He also asked his mother to supervise him every day. He did not know how his legs were doing now. Fong Yin had inadvertently mentioned this to Lu Xiaoga. He didn't expect Lu Xiaoga to keep this matter in mind. Fong Yin knew that Grandpa shouldn't be asleep at this time. He was sleeping less and less, and sometimes he couldn't sleep at night. It was said that when the elderly reached a certain age, they were very afraid of sleeping, worried that once they fell asleep, they would never get up again. It was said that when the elderly reached a certain age, they were very afraid of sleeping, worried that once they fell asleep, they would never get up again. Fong Yin didn't know if Grandpa had such worries, but he had been worried that something bad would happen. Birth, old age, illness, and death were human nature. However, at the moment when his father died, tragically, and the old drunkard went to the extremely cold land, Fong Yin really didn't want to bear the pain of losing his loved ones. "Are you stupid? It might rain in Huacheng, but it might not rain in Yanjing," Fong Yin said with a smile. He grabbed his phone from the table, ready to call Grandpa and have a good chat with him. When the elderly couldn't sleep at night, it would be a pleasant surprise if they could receive a call from their children. Fong Yin dialed his grandpa's number. The phone was picked up immediately when Fong Yan's grandfather woke up. Fong Yin was very surprised and said, "Grandpa, why did you pick up so soon?" "Very soon?" Fong Hu-wei's old voice came over, and he said with a smile, "I was about to charge my phone, but the phone rang." "What's up?" "Nothing. I just wanted to talk to you," Fong Yin said with a smile. He knew that Grandpa didn't want to charge his phone. He didn't have the habit of using a phone before. Ever since Fong Yin bought him a phone for seniors and forced him to use it, he had been holding it in his hand all the time. The day he received the gift, he called his eldest daughter, his second daughter, and his youngest daughter who was far away in Mingzhu. He even called his old friend Lu Gong and talked for more than half an hour. He was always waiting for the phone to ring because his family was on the other end of the line. That was what this old man, who had been a famous soldier all his life, looked forward to the most. "It's raining in Huacheng, and Chaoga knows that your legs aren't feeling well, so she asked me to call you to check on you." "Chaoga?" Fong Hu-wei obviously knew about Lu Chaoga, and he asked in a low voice, "Are you with Chaoga?" "Yes," Fong Yin said frankly. He had nothing to hide from the old man on the other end of the line. There was nothing he could hide. "We're together." As expected, Fong Hu-wei said after a moment of silence, "Fong Yin, you should know that I've always wanted you to be with that girl from the Yi family. It's been my wish for so many years." "Grandpa, I know." Fong Yin knew that his grandpa had guessed something. The old man's wisdom had always been beyond his imagination. "I'll take care of it." "You won't," said Fong Hu-wei. "You've never had any relationship experience. You're like a newborn when it comes to this kind of thing. How are you going to deal with it? High IQ doesn't mean high EQ. Plus, you're neither. You can't betray Wenwan," Fong Hu-wei said seriously. "Grandpa, I know," Fong Yin said without hesitation. However, his mind was a little uneasy, like the cold wind that was whistling past outside. How was he supposed to explain everything to Wenwan? "Wenwan, I'm in love with another woman, Wenwan. I'm in love with another woman, Wenwan. Fong Yin felt that he was such a scumbag. Feeling terrible, Fong Yin glanced at Lu Chaoga and said, Grandpa, I told Chaoga that she's my woman. I'll explain it to Wenwan as well. How about you scold me instead? Lu Xiaoga didn't listen to the conversation between Fong Yin and her grandfather. Instead, she sat on the high chair in front of the floor-to-ceiling window with the tea that Fong Yin had brewed for her. She looked out at the distorted world that seemed to be crying and howling. Her waist was curvy and her hips were plump, and her posture was elegant and alluring. You bastard, Fong Huwei scolded him. How could you do such a thing? Are you worthy of Wenwan? Are you worthy of a Yi family? Are you worthy of the ancestors of the Fong clan? How can you be so selfish? What do you want to pull my old face? Fong Huwei had never scolded himself so harshly before, and Fong Yin felt very depressed. He did not utter a single word, silently enduring all of this. Are you pregnant? Soon, Fong Huwei's voice was heard again. If only I were. Our family is so lacking in popularity. Fong Yin, you have a great responsibility. Even if I have to sacrifice my dignity, you have to get a whole family out of this. How am I supposed to face my ancestors otherwise? Fong Yin, the Fong clan is in great danger now. If anything were to happen to you, our Fong clan would be cut off. Grandpa, all right, I'm sleepy and I'm going to bed. You young people should get some rest too, Fong Huwei said impatiently. By the way, tell Wenwan everything. Don't hide a word from her. You think Wenwan, I'm not Wenwan. How would I know if she killed you or castrated you? Fong Huwei said grumpily. I'm hanging up. Call your mother more often. D. The busy tone came from the other end of the line. Fong Yin put away the phone and was about to say something to Lu Chaoga when he saw Lu Chaoga place the teacup on the high table and stand up. Then, she opened the door and walked out. When she came back again, she brought back a woman who was drenched. Fong Yin looked at the woman clearly and said in surprise, Shangxin, why are you here at this time? It's raining so heavily. Jiang Shangxin took the towel from Lu Chaoga and wiped the rainwater off her face and head. She looked at Fong Yin, who was sitting on the sofa and drinking tea, and said, It wasn't raining when we set off, but it suddenly started raining when we reached the entrance of the neighborhood. It wasn't convenient for me to drive back then. I could only bite the bullet and rush in. However, I didn't get wet. I drove all the way to the entrance of the courtyard and only got a few drops of rain when I walked a few steps. Lu Xiaoga invited Shangxin to take a seat and personally brewed a cup of tea for her. Thank you. Jiang Shangxin took the tea and said gratefully. Lu Chaoga smiled and said, You guys continue chatting. I'm going upstairs to read a book. Chaoga, Fong Yin called out. Sit down and listen to it. Shangxin's visit this time should be related to the matter with the Jiang family, right? Jiang Shangxin didn't suspect that Fong Yin had planted an undercover agent around her. Even if he really did that, it would be natural. Even she couldn't find a reason why Fong Yin would trust her 100%. She was from the Jiang family, and she was Jiang Julio's wife. Lu Chaoga nodded and sat down beside Fong Yin again. The two of them looked at Jiang Shangxin and waited for her to explain the reason for her visit. Jiang Shangxin held the teacup and took a sip of hot tea. Then, she looked at Fong Yin and Lu Chaoga and said, General Jiang came to look for me. Yeah. Fong Yin nodded. He wants to buy my shares of Longta Group. Yeah. Fong Yin nodded again. Jiang Shangxin looked at Fong Yin strangely and asked, You knew about it long ago? I guessed it long ago. Fong Yin said. He looked at the violent and rapid raindrops outside and sighed. Looking at the time, it's about time for the Jiang family to attack. Chapter 772. Caught off guard. The Volkswagen was hit by the van from middle. The body of the car creaked. The front of the car shook violently, and then the whole car rolled in the middle of the road. Screech! The hard metal and the asphalt ground rubbed against each other. Sparks appeared, but they were extinguished by the pouring rain. Splat, splat. The rain was heavy and heavy, as if it had a deep hatred for everything that grew on the earth. The van that rushed over did not turn around and leave after committing the crime. Instead, the The front of the car was still pressed against the sidewall of the Volkswagen, and the accelerator was increased, and increased. The van's engine roared, and the tailpipe emitted thick black smoke. They pushed the car's horsepower to the maximum. Everyone knew that this was not an ordinary collision, but a premeditated murder. That is, if the people in the car were still alive. Creak, creak, the body of the car was flipped over, and the van slid all the way and then slammed into the green belt in the middle of the road. A large hole was formed on the surface of the car, and the part that was sunken became a huge iron blade, fiercely hitting or stabbing into the passengers closest to them. A large amount of blood flowed out from the gap of the car door, and just as it appeared red, it was instantly diluted by the rain on the road. More and more rainwater gathered, and the deep red turned into light red, and the light red turned into threads, and finally, the threads spun on the surface of the water and then disappeared without a trace. However, the blood still flowed out endlessly. As a result, the ground continued to turn crimson until it was as if nothing had happened. At this time, the van that was on top of the Volkswagen began to move back. The driver was a one-eyed man, and his one eye exuded a cold and gloomy aura. Even though they had just done such a thing, it was not able to move him at all. Killing, this was their profession. They were born for this. Clang, the car window opened. A man in black with a hood, sitting in the passenger seat, took out a silver disc from his pocket and pressed his finger on the red button on the base of the disc. Beep, beep, beep. The silver disc began to flash with a green light, and the numbers on it rapidly rewound. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. The hooded man threw the silver disc at the Volkswagen. The silver disc seemed to have an inexplicable attractive power. With a snap, it stuck to the Volkswagen's metal body. Bang! The minivan's reverse speed increased, as if there was a monster in front that was about to crush them. DDD. The numbers on the silver dial went back faster, and the alarm grew louder and louder. 3, 2, 1. Clang. The door that was attached to the silver disc suddenly detached itself from the carriage and flew towards the sky, filled with the rain. Bang! The silver disc exploded, and a corrosive green substance scattered in all directions. When the door came into contact with the green substance, it began to emit thick smoke even though it was made of steel. It began to melt and shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally disappeared completely. Not only the car door, but the green liquid that enveloped the sky, the rainwater, and the air that came into contact with it all turned into white gas and disappeared. For a split second, a vacuum appeared in the air within the explosion radius of the silver disc. There was no oxygen, no rain, only the white smoke that came out from the burning. At the same time that he kicked the metal door into the air, Fong Howin's body was like an agile hunting dog as he pounced towards it. He did not run towards the minivan that caused the accident, but towards the left turn, towards the direction where Li Ya's Mercedes-Benz disappeared. It was obvious that their target was not him, nor the two thugs from the Green-Red gang that had their hearts and abdomens pierced by the metal shrapnel. Their target was Li Ya, and only Li Ya. Seeing Fong Howin jump out of the Volkswagen and disappear into the rain in the blink of an eye, the one-eyed man and the hooded man in the minivan were shocked. They had long discovered the existence of the minivan, and their existence was to get rid of the minivan that was protecting them in the dark so that the mission ahead could proceed smoothly. Originally, they thought that they had succeeded. The Volkswagen was knocked to the ground by them, and they even used an extremely expensive genetic medicine. Just one drop was enough to turn a cow into a puddle of liquid. Based on the amount they used, it was enough to turn the Volkswagen and everyone in it into gas. No one in this world would be able to find any evidence of their existence. But why was that guy still alive? Why was he able to escape? There's a survivor, the one-eyed man said viciously. As he spoke, he stepped on the accelerator, and the minivan no longer retreated, but instead charged towards the direction where Fong Howin disappeared into. He's a good fighter. The hooded man's voice was emotionless. He was like a dead person, a zombie. Kill him. Looks like they were prepared. The one-eyed man's voice carried a hint of mockery. That old dog, Du Qing Shure, is considerate to his goddaughter. It won't change the overall situation. After the hooded man finished speaking, when the minivan was moving at high speed, he pushed open the door and jumped onto the roof. He stood on the roof and watched Fong Haohen's running figure. Fong Haohen's body was skinny, and his hands and legs were long. People often said that he looked like a human pole or a scarecrow that was used to scare birds and beasts in the fields. However, when he ran with all his might, his speed was shockingly fast. Fong Haohen was very anxious. He was worried that something would happen to Leah. He was sent by Junior Marshal Uncle to protect Leah. He could not let Junior Marshal Uncle down. Most importantly, what he said to Leah was true. He said that he would protect Leah. He said that he would not let Leah come to any harm. He also said that even if he died, if those bad people stepped over his body, his unwilling soul would hug their legs. Of course, if they did not step over his body, then there was nothing he could do. Fong Haohen did not know how to like, how to love. In his life, there had never been such a word. If someone asked him, "Do you like or love Leah?" he would definitely be confused, not knowing what you were talking about. What was the difference between the two? Didn't they all want to be with her? Fong Haohen knew that he was not a hero, but when his woman was in danger, he had to stand up and save her. He didn't think about anything, and he didn't have time to think about anything. At this moment, there was only one belief in his heart. No matter what, Leah must be safe. He faced the strong wind and the torrential rain, rushing towards where his hope lay. He saw the Mercedes-Benz, which was parked by the side of the road. It seemed that it had also encountered danger. Thinking of this possibility, Fong Haohen became even more anxious. Bang! His body suddenly left the ground. His body leaped into the air and then fell towards the wetland in front of him. He was attacked from behind, and someone kicked him in the back. His whole body was burning in pain, and his bones felt like they were about to fall apart. Fong Haohen's body slid on the ground. Then he jumped up and ran towards the Mercedes-Benz again. He didn't even look back to see who was sneaking up on him. He knew what the goal of those bad people was. They wanted to stop him from saving Leah. But no matter what, he had to save Leah. This was the most important thing in the world. Fong Haohen jumped over the green belt, ran a few steps, and suddenly turned to the left. Whoosh! A Bigfoot appeared in the dark night sky, passing through the place where he was just standing. Clang! The leather boots fell to the ground, and the hooded man stood in front of Fong Haohen. He looked at Fong Haohen, who wanted to go around him again, and said, "I know you don't have much time, but you'd better get past me first." Fong Haohen tilted his head in thought, then clenched his fist and ran towards the hooded man. As he ran, the bones in his body creaked loudly. But what was even more surprising was that his body was shrinking. With every step he took, his body would become shorter and smaller. By the time he reached the hooded man, Fong Haohen, who was originally much taller than the hooded man, looked like a child who could only reach the hooded man's shoulder. Bone shrinking art. Everyone in Swallow Dock knew that Fong Yingying and Fong Haohen were the two disciples that Mo Qingdi took in during his travels to challenge the world's strongest fighters. But what they didn't know was, when Mo Qingdi met Fong Haohen was performing the bone-shrinking skill. Fong Yingying was rolling iron rings, while Fong Haohen was able to pass through a very small iron ring. Not knowing what Mo Qingdi was thinking, he brought them back to Swallow Dock. While teaching them Fong Tai Chi, it was more important to let them display their own strengths. As a result, they became as shameless as Fong Yin. Fong Haohen's fist was also shrinking. Finally, it turned into a child's fist. But the fist was white. The night was dark and the rain was thick. But you could still clearly see the whiteness of the fist, as if he was holding a luminous pearl in his hand. The light of the luminous pearl shone through the gap between his fingers. "Leah!" He shouted Leah's name, then punched the hooded man's chest. Chapter 773. The person who understood you the most would always be your opponent. This sentence would never get old no matter what era it was. Fong Yin understood the Jiang family and knew that the Jiang family would definitely take revenge on him. He even knew that the Jiang family would definitely think of ways to instigate him. Of course, General Xing definitely understood Fong Yin and could guess all of this. Therefore, He met him openly and had no intention of hiding anything. Thinking of this, Jiang Shangxin was looking forward to the battle between these two men. The previous battle between Jiang Junling and Fang Yin ended with Jiang Junling's defeat. What about this time? They were both outstanding men from the Jiang family. Would General Xing be able to take revenge for his brother and defeat Fang Yin? So you already know about all these and have made sufficient preparations. Jiang Shangxin sighed and said. Jiang Shangxin knew that Fang Yin was a smart person. She knew that even if she didn't come, Fang Yin would definitely know that General Xing had gone to see her. Of course, she didn't have the intention to hide it from Fang Yin when she specially chose the Longtu building as the meeting place. Jiang Shangxin knew that although she was in control of the Longtu group now, however, Fang Yin, Lu Chaoga, and Lan Shanga had a greater share of the Longtu group. As long as they wanted to, they could kick her out at any time. If she hadn't been harmed so badly by Jiang Junling, if Jiang Zhulu hadn't wanted to kill her, if Fang Yin hadn't saved her life, she probably wouldn't have had the chance to take over the Longtu group, right? What kind of relationship did she have with Fang Yin? Collaborator? Friend? Or was it his woman or a dog? Jiang Shangxin couldn't find the exact answer for a while. However, she could tell from the small movements between Lu Chaoga and Fang Yin that Lu Chaoga had already become Fang Yan's woman. Thinking of this possibility, Jiang Shangxin couldn't help but feel her heart warm up. Will I have such a day myself? Jiang Shangxin thought to herself. If he says that he likes me, if he wants to, should I submit to him or push him away? It's one thing to know, but it's another to be fully prepared. Fang Yin held the teacup and looked at the rain outside the window thoughtfully. No matter who it is, they won't be able to relax when facing a giant like the Jiang family, let alone say that they're fully prepared. It was just that he didn't know how much strength the generals would use in their attacks. Fight to the death? Jiang Shangxin frowned slightly and said, General Xing looks like he's determined to win. I'm sure they've already found a breakthrough point. Is there any problem on your side? I'd rather sacrifice all of Chaoyan technology in order to tear off a piece of the Jiang family's big tiger's flesh. As long as there's blood, the other families will swarm in. At that time, even if the Jiang family wants to stop it, they won't have the chance, Lu Chaoga said calmly, as if she was talking about something insignificant. One had to know that Chaoyan Technology was also a giant company, and its development prospects were limitless. He was the child that Lu Chaoga had raised single-handedly, and he was her everything. She was the biggest shareholder of Chaoyan Technology. Based on the current valuation of Chaoyan Technology, Lu Chaoga's net worth was tens of billions of Huaxia dollars. With the development of Chaoyan Technology or the rise of the energy industry, what figure could her net worth reach? For Fang Yin, she was willing to give up everything. Even if she had to sacrifice her last soldier and shed her last drop of blood, she wanted to seriously injure the Jiang family. Jiang Shangxin couldn't help but be moved. She shifted her gaze to Lu Chaoga and said, even if the Jiang family makes a move, I'm afraid they won't dare to do anything to Chaoyan, at least not openly. After all, Chaoyan Technology doesn't just belong to you and Fang Yin. The Qin family also owns a large proportion of the shares. If they want to deal with you, the first thing they'll do is to reach a settlement with the Qin family. To reach a settlement with the Qin family. This sentence made Fang Yin and Lu Chaoga look a little embarrassed. Yes, if the Jiang family were to make a move on Fang Yin and Lu Chaoga, the first thing they had to be cautious about was the Qin family's attitude towards this matter. The Qin family was the biggest shareholder of Chaoyan Technology and also the big backer behind Fang Yin and Lu Chaoga. Chaoyan Technology was able to take root and grow rapidly under the covetous eyes of a pack of wolves. On one hand, it was because of Lu Chaoga's ability and persistence, and, on the other hand, it was because of the Qin family supporting them from behind. Be it the technical personnel or the security forces, most of them were sent by the Qin family. Whether it was the former head of Lu Chaoga's guards, scholar, or the current head of the guards, Qining, they were all experts sent by the Qin family. In Chaoyan Technology, Lu Chaoga was the largest shareholder, the Qin family was the second largest shareholder, and Fang Yin was the third largest shareholder. According to the proportion of shares, it was natural that Fang Yin and Lu Chaoge had the advantage. For so many years, under the strong support and promotion of Qin Yitian, the Qin family's support and help to Chaoyan technology was meticulous. The relationship between the two sides had always been very harmonious, and it could be said that they had spent a long period of honeymoon. However, where there were interests, there would be fights. The founding party led by Lu Chaoge and the parachute party backed by the Qin family had always been in a state of open and secret struggle. Lu Chaoge wanted to maintain her leadership position, but the Qin family also wanted to seek a greater voice in Chaoyan technology. The more rapid the development of Chaoyan technology, the brighter the future prospects and the stronger the Qin family's ambition. If someone made a move on Fang Yin or Lu Chaoge, the Qin family would naturally be furious and fight back. However, the Qin family and the Jiang family were giant families with equal power. There were even rumors that the Qin family and the Jiang family wanted to unite by marriage between Qin Yitian and Jiang Junling. Although the two families had never admitted it directly, it was a fact that Jiang Junling and Qin Yitian had been very close for a period of time. Just to say that there was such a possibility, if the Jiang family had greater benefits, for example, after they destroyed Fang Yin and Lu Chaoge, let the Qin family occupy the dominant position of Chaoyan technology, or directly give the entire Chaoyan technology to the Qin family. Perhaps it was an equally irresistible benefit. How could the Qin family not be tempted? With the disappearance of Fang Yin and Lu Chaoge, who will be the biggest winner? Would it be the Jiang family? The Jiang family was just taking revenge. The Qin family was the biggest winner. They would own the entire Chaoyan technology. Sometimes, the real enemy was not the opponent who fought with you fiercely with swords and spears, but the comrade who suddenly stabbed you while you were fighting shoulder to shoulder. Because of Qin Yitian and the mistress rumors, the Qin family's attitude toward Fang Yin was extremely bad. Although Qin Yitian had never said anything, Fang Yin was not an idiot. Could he not imagine the direction in which things would develop? Wasn't the Qin family's attitude toward him obvious at a glance at the Junling clubhouse? Fang Yin looked at Jiang Shangxin and did not know if she said this unintentionally or to remind him. Could it be that General Xing had revealed something in front of her? Jiang Shangxin was also an extremely intelligent person. When she saw Fang Yin and Lu Chaoge staring at her intently and pondering, Jiang Shangxin immediately understood what they were thinking. She hurriedly explained, "I just said it casually, and I didn't get any information. However, based on my guess, is there really such a possibility?" Lu Chaoge looked at Fang Yin. She knew that Fang Yin and Qin Yitian were on good terms and understood the girl's deep love for Fang Yin. Although Qin Yitian was young, he was outstanding and had helped his mother manage the Qin family's business for the past few years. His schemes and victories were dazzling and amazing. Many people said that the Qin family had another spirit fox. Some even said that the essence of the Qin family's thousands of years of spiritual energy had been gathered on this girl. If Fang Yin gave Qin Yitian a call, wouldn't he know a lot of things? Fang Yin shook his head and said, "I will keep this matter in mind." Jiang Shangxin originally wanted to stay for a while before leaving, but the rain was getting heavier and it seemed like it would not stop anytime soon. That little princess of the Qin family, she probably knows something? Jiang Shangxin looked at Fang Yin and asked, "I will personally make a trip to the Yin capital." Fang Yin said. Jiang Shangxin took a glance at Lu Chaoge and giggled. It's not easy to enter the Qin family. Outsiders say that the Jiang family is the most arrogant and the Qin family is the most arrogant. The Qin family's arrogance comes from their bones. They seem to treat everyone very well, but they rarely put anyone in their eyes. Thank you for your reminder. Fang Yin smiled and said, Rumble. Another bolt of lightning exploded in the sky, as if it was going to tear apart the endless darkness. Heavy rain. Splash. Fang Haohen's feet stepped into the puddles on the ground. Because of the rapid accumulation of water on the road, it looked like he was running in a river. Fang Haohen's body jumped up high, and he threw a punch. That fist was glowing brightly, as if it had suddenly pulled open the case that was covering the luminous pearl. allowing it to release its own brilliance without restraint. When Fong Haohen's body shrunk bit by bit as he ran, the man in the headgear squinted his eyes and revealed a murderous look. When he saw Fong Haohen's white fist flying over, he already knew that this weird-looking guy's skills had reached the peak, and he had reached the realm of introverted divine brilliance. What a surprise! The man in the headgear thought to himself. He did not expect to meet such an expert. When he knew that he would not be able to meet Fong Yin, he felt a little regretful. He did not retreat. This was the excitement that he had been looking forward to for a long time. How could he retreat? The man in the headgear also threw a punch. Sizzle. The sound of the rainwater evaporating was heard. His fist and Fong Haohen's were in two opposite states. Fong Haohen's fist was getting smaller and smaller, but the man in the headgear's fist was getting bigger and bigger. Fong Haohen's fist was filled with white light, but the man's fist was pitch black. It looked like an ordinary punch. Boom! Their fists collided fiercely. Chapter 774. The light in Fong Haohen's palm exploded, as if a white sun had suddenly risen in the sky. The blazing white light enveloped Fong Haohen's body, as well as the hooded man's pitch-black fist. However, it couldn't hide the color of the hooded man's fist. It was like a black spot on the sun, like a flaw on a bead. The black fist was wrapped in energy and carried an evil aura that could devour everything, as it fiercely bombarded Fong Haohen's body. Whoosh, 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 the wind howled, and the energy surged. Between the two of them, a white energy shield formed by strength chi was formed. Inside the transparent energy barrier, there was no wind, no rainstorm, no airflow. They were in a state of complete vacuum. The energy barrier appeared and disappeared in an instant. The surrounding raindrops were bounced off, turning into countless powerful bullets. Crack. The sound of bones breaking could be heard. This was the first round of the battle, a collision of flesh against flesh, a battle of bones against bones. It was unclear whether Fong Haohen's bones broke or the hooded man's. Kai Clan's wildfire fist, Fong Haohen thought. Hua Xia Kung Fu had the saying of Southern Fist and Northern Kick. Southern Fist didn't refer to a single fist style, but to the entire Hua Xia Kung Fu that was superior to the Northern Kung Fu. Fast, accurate, ruthless, and always able to come up with something new. In the north, the Bailey clan's Bailey Godly Fist was the best, but in the south there was the Kai clan, Li clan, and Hua clan. The Kai clan's Wildfire Fist, the Li clan's Five Grappling Fist, and the Hua clan's Mystic Fist were all the best. They were also the backbone of the saying of Southern Fist and Northern Kick for hundreds of years. Fong Haohen was Mo Qingdi's disciple, although his drunkard master wasn't very qualified, and he often slacked off. But Qingdi liked to explain the various characteristics and uses of the world's kung fu to Fong Yin and his two disciples. The Kai family's Wildfire Fist was naturally in his explanation, so Fong Haohen recognized the origin of this fist technique the moment he came into contact with it. Deal with change with constancy. Deal with constancy with change. The only thing that didn't change was the way he used his strength. It was fierce, ferocious, firm, and unbelievably fierce. Moreover, once the battle began, it would be like a wildfire that would never stop. It looked like it was going to burn everything, including the grasslands, the mountains, and even the black soil on the ground. What was ever-changing was their fist path. Their fist path had 127 variations, and this was the official number from a few years ago. Perhaps even the old drunkard didn't know how many changes there were now. Wildfire burns the city. The hooded man was indeed a member of the Kai family, and he was a very important person. It was also because of his extraordinary identity that he was wearing black clothes and a black hood that covered his head completely. He used 90% of his strength in this strike. He wanted to smash Hero Fong into a pile of bones with a single punch, even though he looked like a silly-looking big guy. Die! The masked man shouted in a muffled voice. Boom! The light in Fong Haohen's palm flashed again, like the last radiance of the setting sun, or the rebound before death, and then disappeared. Hiss! Fong Haohen and the hooded man's bodies were motionless at first, but then, as if they had been electrocuted, they bounced back in the opposite direction at the same time. Whoosh! Fong Haohen's feet slid quickly on the ground, creating wave after wave of water. A majestic force pushed his body backward. In the process of retreating, his shrunken body began to swell and grow larger. Crack, crack, crack! The bones in Mr. Fong's body kept creaking. When he struggled to stand in the rain, his body had returned to its previous dry and skinny body of a utility pole. The hooded man's body flew into the air and smashed into the distance. His body passed through the rain and the green belt by the side before falling to the ground with a thud. As the ground was too slippery, his body slid all the way until he hit a billboard by the side of the road. Pwah! The hooded man's chest was agitated, and then he spat out a mouthful of blood. He was injured in that attack just now. He was actually injured. The wildfire fist was known for its strength, and the way it was used was very unique. Usually, a single strike would cause even top experts to feel agitated, unable to calm down for a long time. But what was up with this skeleton monster today? He still couldn't understand the meaning of the two flashes of light. According to his realm of converged divine essence, he could only complete an attack of that level with all his strength. He retracted his power and blasted it one more time. That's impossible. The hooded man shook his head in denial. How old was this monster? How could he have reached the legendary heavenly Tao realm of inner strength circulation? Or could it be that this was a method of exerting strength that he didn't know of? The hooded man had blocked Fong Haohen's first flash of light, but his body was injured by the second flash of light. Although the second flash of light wasn't as bright as the first, and the strength wasn't as great as the first, it was enough to seriously injure the hooded man who was temporarily in a blank state. He felt like his organs had shifted, and what was even more unbearable was that his right arm was in excruciating pain. During the battle, he heard the crisp sound of bones breaking. It wasn't hard to imagine that it was the sound produced when one's bones couldn't withstand the heavy blows. The torrential rain poured down on his face and body. Most of his body was soaked in the rain, and he looked indescribably wretched. The hooded man suddenly felt a little regretful. Why did he have to make this journey? When he heard that his opponent was the rare genius of the Taiji lineage, Fong Yin, he felt an upsurge of emotions, but he also felt disdain. Hype, it was all hype. In today's society, people's hearts were getting worse. Even some of the people in the inner world were infected with the bad habits of the outside world. Kung Fu was trained day and night with punches and kicks. How could it be packaged and hyped up? He came out this time to have a good battle with Fong Yin, to expose the false face of the revival of Taoism. When he came out to carry out the mission today, he felt a little unhappy when he heard that he might not be able to meet Fong Yin. He came for Fong Yin, but if he couldn't even meet Fong Yin, what was the point of coming out? What? My opponent is a martial nephew of Fong Yin? When he heard the news, he nearly smashed the table he was eating at. He shouted at those people, "Isn't this insulting?" Only now did he know that others weren't insulting him, but he was the one who insulted him the most. Isn't this insulting? When the hooded man thought of this sentence, he wanted to bury his head in the rain and never lift it again. Fong Haohen didn't care what the hooded man was thinking. Anyway, he wasn't the woman he liked, and they weren't friends. After Fong Haohen's figure stood still, he glanced at the hooded man's position and quickly ran in his direction. Let's get rid of him first, Fong Haohen thought in his heart. Anyway, it's just something along the way. He had to admit that after being with Fong Yin for a long time, he would more or less be infected with Fong Yin's temperament of not wanting to be at a disadvantage and desperately trying to take advantage of others. For example, he had already defeated his opponent. If he killed him along the way, then even if he suffered some losses, it wouldn't seem that big, right? Of course, 100 hooded men couldn't be compared to his Xiaoya. Not even 1,000,000. Kacha. Fong Haohen's body bent slightly, and he dived toward the hooded man's position. Jie, his body spun rapidly. As he spun, a bullet passed by the side of his body. One Eye drove toward the hooded man with one hand, and with the other hand, he raised a silver pistol and pulled the trigger at Fong Haohen. Fong Haohen dodged to the side of the car. Just as the van was about to pass him, he suddenly jumped into the van through the open window. One Eye was shocked. He had just seen Fong Haohen's bone shrinking ability. But wasn't this kid's tunneling ability too amazing? If he knew Fong Haohen's profession before he met Mo Qingdi, he probably wouldn't have let out such a sigh. Fong Haohen's tunneling speed was fast, but One Eye's reaction speed was even faster. When he saw Fong Haohen appear next to him, he immediately raised his gun and pulled the trigger at Fong Haohen, who was in the passenger seat. There was no pause in the process. Not even a second. Gotcha! He pulled the trigger, but no bullet was fired. Where's the bullet? Where's the bullet? Where's the bullet? Crack, crack, crack. Fong Haohen threw the unloaded bullet on the ground, then snatched the pistol from One Eye's hand and smashed it heavily into One Eye's head. Gotcha! 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 After 2 or 3 hits, One Eye's head was a bloody mess. His forehead was covered in blood, and his only eye had become blurry due to the blood that had seeped into it. Heaven has a path, but you don't want to take it, and hell has no doors, but you want to barge in. You want to die? I'll send you to die. One Eye's face was ferocious, and he laughed maniacally. He slammed his palm on a red button on the steering wheel, and then the van he was in exploded into pieces with a loud bang. Green liquid splashed everywhere, and the body of the van was quickly corroded into thick smoke. Chapter 775. We've seen countless movies and TV stories that tell us that people who want to die together with others will end up killing themselves in the end. The speed at which Hero Fong entered the hole was fast, and the speed at which he escaped was even faster. When Fong Haohen saw the one-eyed man laughing hysterically, he knew that he would do something shameless. When Fong Haohen heard the one-eyed man shouting lines like, "There's a way to heaven, but you don't take it, but you rush into hell," he knew that he would do something shameless. If you were a movie lover, you would know that any character who shouted this line was either going to kill someone or be killed very soon. There were no exceptions. The one-eyed man had just raised his hand, and before he could hit the car's steering wheel, Fong Haohen's head shrank, and he rolled out. Now is not the time to be a hero. Besides, even if Fong Yingying was here, he would probably run away faster. This was not the first time Fong Haohen came into contact with this kind of genetic weapon. Before he encountered these killers today, Fong Yin had already told him about the horror of this weapon. Fong Haohen would never forget the serious expression on Fong Yan's face when he mentioned this weapon. He said, "Run as far as you can and don't look back." Later, Fong Yingying asked, "What if I can't run away?" Fong Yin looked at Fong Yingying and said, "If I can't run away, then try to turn around and kill them." Fong Haohen knew that people with physical disabilities could also be mentally disabled. People with this kind of mental disability could do anything that ordinary people could not understand, such as suicide. Therefore, Fong Haohen ran away shamelessly. Even if the one-eyed man was faking it, if he didn't slap him, he would accept it. The one-eyed man finally slapped him. The van they were driving was a genetic explosive warehouse. The control button was on the steering wheel controlled by the one-eyed man. When he detonated the bomb, the van exploded with a bang. The green light flickered, and even the heavy rain could not dilute its density. Not only did it not extinguish them, but the dense raindrops that fell on them immediately evaporated into gas. The green genetic agent was extremely corrosive. Rainwater, grass, soil, and even the metal body of the car. The one-eyed man's body was annihilated in the flames and then burned into ashes or gas. Clang! Half of the car bounced in the air before landing heavily on the ground. When it hits the ground, it's hard to tell what it really is. Moreover, it was shrinking and disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Quang, quang, quang. Fong Haohen walked up to the hooded man. Fong Haohen looked at the man soaked in the rain and said, "Why bother? Does the Kai family need to be someone else's dog? It's not easy for anyone to live," the hooded man said sorrowfully. "Just like you now, it's not easy for you to kill someone, but for someone else to kill you. Yeah, it's not easy for anyone to live." Fong Haohen nodded and said, "You guys kidnapped Leah. Taken away." The hooded man nodded and said, We are only in charge of intercepting them. The people who are really in charge of snatching them are very strong, not any weaker than you or I. If Leah doesn't have a stronger expert protecting her, they should have succeeded. Now that I think about it, I thought the mission on the other side would be a bit more dangerous, but I didn't think we would run into a tough one. This is fate. Then I'll have to trouble you. Fong Haohan wiped the rainwater off his face and spoke with a very serious tone. Tell me where they went. I'll go and get her back. I don't blame you for wanting to kill me, and then you don't have to die. You're very good at negotiating, and the conditions you offer are also very tempting. The hooded man laughed loudly. But I can't promise you that. Is there something you're more afraid of than death? There is. What is it? My entire family is dead. Fong Haohan went silent for a bit, then said, I can understand your situation. To be honest, I really want to let you go. That's making things too difficult for you. The hooded man smiled and said, if I leave, I'll still have to listen to someone else's orders, become their dog, and kill people, kill you, and kill your family. That's right. That's why I can't let you go. Fong Haohan was a bit annoyed as he scratched his head a few times and said, what do you think I should do? I'll listen to you. You're really making things difficult. The hooded man smiled bitterly. What kind of advice can I give you for something like this? Fong Haohan looked straight into the hooded man's eyes and asked, can you take off the hooded man's head? Why bother? The hooded man smiled and said, I'm already going to die. Why humiliate me again? That's true. Fong Haohan nodded and said, if you don't want me to see, then I won't. The hooded man propped himself up with one hand and climbed up from the rain. Because the rain had soaked his clothes, the black night clothes and the hooded man's head were tightly stuck to his body, as if they were one with him. The hooded man bowed deeply to Fong Haohan and said, although the winner takes all, but I can't tell you where that woman was taken, I still feel very sorry. Even if you don't tell me, I'll still find her, Fong Haohan said with a resolute expression. If I can't find her today, I'll find her tomorrow. If I can't find her, my junior marshal uncle will definitely find her. Fong Yan, how unfortunate that we won't have the chance to meet again, the hooded man said. He raised his uninjured left hand. The left hand clenched into a fist, then began to expand in the air. It carried a cold, dark glint like the hand of the Grim Reaper. Boom! The hooded man's fist struck his own head. His head exploded like a watermelon. His head, as well as the hooded man's head, turned into scattered pieces of flesh and cloth, flying in all directions. He didn't want anyone to see his face, and no one would be able to see his face again. In order to not bring shame to his family, in order to not bring danger to his family, Fong Haohan blankly stared at the headless corpse that once again fell to the ground, then said to him with a serious expression, don't worry, your hatred is also my hatred. I'll carry it for you. The rain was getting heavier, washing away the sins of this world. Fong Haohan's tall body was running in the wind and rain, like a savage from ancient times. Rumble. The sound of a car engine could be heard from the door again. Fong Yin and Lu Chaoga were standing in front of the French window in the living room, watching as the door of the dark Mercedes-Benz opened and a man came out from the passenger seat with an umbrella. Before the umbrella covered his head, Du Qing, in a black trench coat, had already opened the door and got out of the car. Du Qing looked up at the French window in the living room. His and Fong Yan's eyes collided in midair through the whistling wind and the dense rain. Fong Yan nodded at him, and then Du Qing strode towards the front door of the villa. Du Qing stood at the door of the living room. He took off his black trench coat, and the bodyguard in black behind him immediately reached out to take it. The bodyguard next to him squatted down to help him take off his shoes, but was pulled up by him and shouted, when did I, Du Qing, ask my brother to take off my shoes? Get out of the way. Du Qing bent down to take off his shoes and slowly and calmly untied the shoelaces of his leather shoes. He untied one shoe, then the other shoe. He took off both shoes and put them on slippers, then picked up his leather shoes and put them in the shoe cabinet. Du Qing took the towel that Lu Chaoga handed over, bowed slightly to Lu Chaoga, and said with a smile, thank you, Miss Lu. Lu Chaoga nodded and turned to help the guests make tea. Du Qing took the towel and wiped the rain off his face, then walked to Fong Yan's side and stood still. Looking at Fong, Yin, who was anxious and impatient as if the rain would never stop, he said, "This rain is very heavy. This rain is very heavy." Fang Yin nodded and said, "Don't blame a hero. He is a good boy. I like him very much." Du Qing said aloud, "I don't blame him." Fang Yin nodded and said, "But he is blaming himself." He came back to say something and then went out again. When he went out, Fang Yingying also went out. "My two nephews are usually joking and not decent, but they're a bit stubborn. They will definitely stick to something they're determined to do. They can't be blamed. The main thing is that their improper master didn't teach them well. People were lost, and they were lost in the hands of a hero. So, they will definitely find a way to find them. If they can't find them in 1 day, then they will look for them for 2 days. If they can't find them in 2 days, then they will look for them for a year for the rest of their lives." Such a heavy rain, it must have been hard on these 2 children. Du Qing sighed. "It's not easy for anyone to live." Fang Yin said, "That's what the Kai family said." The hero said that the Kai family also made a move. He recognized the Kai family's wildfire fist. "This isn't over yet." Du Qing grinned. It was a soundless laugh, but it made people's hearts palpitate. "I don't care if it's the inner Jianghu or the outer Jianghu. I have people, I have guns. I want to destroy the Kai family. I don't want any of them to live." Fang Yin looked at Du Qing with a bit of guilt and said, "The hero wants me to ask you a favor. Please say it. Let the Kai family go." Fang Yin said. Fang Haoan made a deal with the Kai family. As long as he told them Li Yu's location, they would let him go. But that person didn't agree. He said that the thing he feared more than death was the death of his entire family. Then he bowed and apologized to Fang Haoan, then used the Kai family's wildfire fist to smash his own head. It's not easy for anyone to live. He just wanted to save his own life. Some people want to save their own life. Some people want to save their family. Du Qing nodded and said, "He's a hero. If the Kai family doesn't mind, I'll go and become sworn brothers with them." Chapter 776. Du Qing started from the underworld. He was ruthless, hard-working, and loyal. In the end, he rose rapidly and became the leader of Qinghong. Later, he followed the trend of the times and wanted to whitewash Qinghong. Thus, he founded the Green Cloud Group that was famous throughout Huaqing and was very influential in the business world of Huaxia. Many people felt that the reason why a gangster like Du Qing could become rich was because he was ruthless, hard-working, and loyal. In reality, in that kind of era, in that kind of circle, how many people wouldn't be ruthless, hard-working, and loyal? But why was it Du Qing who fought his way out? Why was it Du Qing who stepped on their heads? Because Du Qing was smart. In this world, smart people were the scariest. They knew what could be said and what couldn't be said. They also knew what could be done and what couldn't be done. Du Qing coming to see Fang Yin at this time was naturally because of the matter of Li Yu being kidnapped. When he heard Fang Yin mention the Kai family's involvement, he immediately said that he didn't care if it was the Jianghu or the Jianghu. He had people and guns and wanted to destroy the entire Kai family. People with status like him usually kept their words. When he heard Fang Yin say that the Kai family member would rather use the family's wildfire fist to smash his head to pieces than to trade, he immediately changed his view of the Kai family. He praised them as a good man and said that if the Kai family didn't abandon him, he was willing to become sworn brothers with them. With a flip of his hand, he could create clouds. With a flip of his hand, he could create rain. With a gun in his left hand and a rose in his right. Only by doing something and not doing something could one become a Confucian hero. In Fang Yan's long contact with Du Qing, he felt that Du Qing was indeed worthy of the title Confucian hero. Good at calligraphy, good at drinking tea, admires culture, socializes with celebrities, has a calm temperament, and talks elegantly. Most importantly, the brothers around him respected and loved him from the bottom of their hearts. This was also the main reason why Fang Yin was willing to associate with him. The secondary reason was because he had people and guns and was the king of Huaqing's underworld. He would rather smash his head to pieces than let others recognize him. This means that the Kai family is not willing to admit this matter. We just need to remember this in our hearts. The Kai family's people had character when dealing with this matter, but they still made a mistake first. We don't owe them anything. Young master is right. Du Qing nodded and said, I'm used to fighting and killing. When I hear of such a man, I can't help but admire him. It's easy to turn a good thing into a bad thing. These are all trivial matters. Fang Yin shook his head and said, Is there any news? Everyone has been sent out. I received a few calls on the way. They said that they found a suspicious target, but when they went over, they found out that it was the wrong target, Du Qing said in a deep voice. These people are all experts, and they know how to hide themselves. They came prepared. It won't be an easy task to find them in such a huge flower city. Fang Yin comforted Du Qing and said, Don't worry, their target is not Li Ye. I know, their goal is not for Li Ye, but to force me to submit. Du Qing said with a smile, Li Ye is taking the blame for me. Fang Yin looked at the deep outline of Du Qing's profile and asked, Have you decided? I've decided. Du Qing smiled bitterly. In their hands, Li Ye doesn't have a better choice. Don't you want to give yourself more time? Or will there be news of Li Ye on your side or my side? You know what kind of people they are, and I also know what kind of people they are. When dealing with people like this, it's best to follow their heart. They can be willful, but I can't. Du Qing had a helpless expression and said, You should know about Li Ye. Although she is the daughter of my brother, he entrusted her to me after he left. All these years, Du Qing, have never lacked women, but I have never thought of letting those women give me a son or a daughter. Why? I'm afraid. A person like me can be hacked to death on the streets or assassinated in my own room at any time. If I die, how can my enemies who are hiding in the dark, those who have a life and death feud with me, will my family go? If I want to give birth to them, then I need to have the ability to protect them. If I can't protect them, then it's best not to give birth to them. Although I don't have children, I want to have a child. So, Li is my only child, she is my daughter. Among all the fathers in the world, how many of them are willing to risk their own daughter's life? I understand, Fang Yin said. Although I've already made my decision, I still feel that I should come and say hello to you. Du Qing looked at Fang Yin apologetically and said, If that's the case, I can't help you anymore. Especially at this time. It's okay. Fang Yin looked at Du Qing, looked at this man who knew how to judge the situation, and said, You have already helped me too much. This time I owe you. Du Qing laughed and waved his hand. You understand me, and I also understand you. Let's not talk about things like you owe me and I owe you anymore. When this is over, let's have a good drink again. Be good brothers again. Fang Yin said seriously. You're taking advantage of me, Du Qing said with some complaint. Then his big hand tightly grasped Fang Yin's hand and said, As long as we're alive, we'll be good brothers again. Lu Chaoga came over with tea. Du Qing took the teacup and took a sip, then put the teacup on the tea table. Du Qing looked at Lu Chaoga with a smile and said, Miss Lu's tea is something I will never get tired of. It's much better than the tea brewed by that lass Li Ye. That lass simply threw the tea leaves into the boiling water. Miss Lu, although I really want to finish this cup of tea, time is of the essence, and I still have some personal matters to deal with. So, I'll leave this half a cup of tea for now. I'll enjoy it when I come back. Lu Chaoga nodded, looked at Du Qing with admiration, and said, Whenever CEO Du comes, there will be good tea for you. Du Qing smiled, waved his hand at the two, then turned around and walked outside. He changed into leather shoes at the entrance, put on the coat on the hanger, then pushed open the door and walked out. The bodyguards in black surrounded him, raising black umbrellas to cover his head. His body rushed into the rainforest, tall and straight. Even something like this couldn't make him lower his head and bend his back. Fang Yin and Lu Chaoga didn't send him out. They stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and watched Du Qing's receding figure. He's a good man. Lu Chaoga held Fang Yin's hand tightly and said aloud, He's a good man. Fang Yin held Lu Chaoga's hand tightly and said aloud, The wind didn't stop, and the rain didn't stop, but tonight, the people of Huacheng received something even more shocking than the rainstorm. Du Qing turned himself in. Du Qing, the leader of Qinghong, the founder of Green Cloud Group, the king of Huaqing's underworld these years? Was there something wrong with his brain? Why would he turn himself in? One must know, Du Qing's whitewash was very successful. Many years ago, he had been working hard to erase the brand of a gang on himself, handing over some of the overly sensitive businesses to others, while he used the funds and connections he had before to run normal businesses or great businesses that were difficult to define. After experiencing the previous internal rebellion, he almost chased out all the dangerous people in Qinghong. It was also after that incident that Du Qing rarely appeared in the outside world, handing over all the big and small matters to his assistants and his adopted daughter Leah to handle. He could have spent the rest of his life comfortably. He could have lived an enviable retired life. Why did he turn himself in at this time? What else did he need to turn himself in for? Moreover, he had so many underlings, he could just find someone to take the blame for him, get him a large sum of money after he came out, and help him take care of his family, right? Wasn't that what everyone did? However, those who understood Du Qing knew that there must be a deeper meaning behind Du Qing turning himself in. For a person like Du Qing, ordinary people couldn't do anything to him. At that time, people who lived off others would feel very proud and could earn a lot of money. As the big brother of Qinghong, he had already seen the future situation and sold off the most profitable business in his hands. At that time, many people scolded him for being a big idiot. In the end, those people who lived off others were either shot to death or were still in prison singing, "There's not a drop of oil in a cabbage" in their mouths. A few of them had good endings and good luck, but they were only in the business of transporting goods or contracting some sand and stone factories to support their families. How could they be compared to Du Qing, who was a big shot in the business world? Everyone understood one thing: Huaqing was about to change. A storm was brewing. Very quickly, more information was sent back to the people of Huaqing. Qinghong's people were like a pack of wolves, searching for news of Leah all over the world. It was said that Leah had been kidnapped. Then, they finally understood the reason why Du Qing turned himself in. However, since Leah had been kidnapped, they could just send more brothers to find her. At most, they could just spend some money to redeem her. Was there a need to turn himself in? What did turning himself in have to do with Leah being kidnapped? Even more people began to scold Du Qing for being an idiot. Turning himself in for a woman, a goddaughter, those people held a glass of red wine in one hand and caressed the thigh of a young lady with the other. Their faces were full of mockery as they scolded. Only Du Qing would do such an idiot thing. He offended so many people. I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to survive for more than a few days in prison, right? Chapter 777. The heavy rain had just stopped, and the sky was still misty. The drainage system in the neighborhood was excellent. The rainwater that had accumulated up to their ankles had all been drained. After a night of rain, the cement road was as white as a mirror. The grass was greener, and the autumn flowers were redder. Of course, due to the strong wind and heavy rain, some of the tender grass in the courtyard was blown away. A frangipani tree had its trunk broken. The trunk was broken, but there was still a piece of flesh attached to the tree. It looked like it was reluctant to part with its mother. The cleaner, who was responsible for cleaning the community and clearing the fallen leaves, found something strange. This community was a high-end villa community. Usually, at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, the community was as quiet as night. There were almost no signs of activity. Only after 9 o'clock would there be a busy state of cars coming and going. However, the situation today was a little special. It was only 5 o'clock, not even 6 o'clock. It should be the golden time when the nobles who had been busy the whole night were sleeping soundly or had just fallen asleep. However, there were a few luxury cars entering the neighborhood. Moreover, these luxury cars arrived at the same villa, the entrance of the 11th courtyard. Fang Yin didn't sleep the whole night. He kept receiving information from all sides. Fang Yingying and Fang Haoan hadn't returned yet, which meant that they hadn't found Li Ye's information yet. Du Qing had turned himself in, and the person in charge of searching for the hostages was Du Qing's trusted aide, Green Wolf. Last time when Qinghong rebelled, Green Wolf guarded Du Qing and made a great contribution. With Qing Hong's veteran 13, Tiger Lord, and a bunch of others imprisoned, Green Wolf and the other rising stars naturally had the chance to stand out. Du Qing lost his freedom after he was imprisoned, so it was a little difficult for Green Wolf to handle the situation alone. Therefore, when Du Qing left, he instructed him to report to Fong Yin in time if there was any situation. When he wasn't around, Fong Yin would issue orders on his behalf. Green Wolf knew the relationship between Du Qing and Fong Yin, and he also knew Fong Yin's superb martial arts and ruthlessness. He responded to Du Qing's call to look for Fong Yin if there was any difficulty. Therefore, in the process of searching for the hostages, as long as there was any movement, they would report to Fong Yin. A suspicious vehicle has been spotted at the seafood pier. We've sent our brothers from the Heavenly Squad to check it out. The informant said that they found traces of the enemy in the abandoned factory in Baiyun District. Now they're asking the Brothers of the Earth team to go and rescue them. The Xin team is on standby and ready to provide support. Doggy Li's people are starting to cause trouble. They want to snatch Qing Hong's place. Doggy Li and Master Qing have a grudge. Fong Yin did not feel impatient. On the contrary, he attached great importance to the information he collected each time. He organized the information one by one, and then kept marking and writing on the map of Flower City. From time to time, he would discuss something with Lu Chaoga. Lu Chaoga did not sleep for the whole night. Fong Yin urged her a few times, but she still insisted on staying by Fong Yan's side. When Fong Yan's teacup was empty, she filled it with water in time. Fong Yin was hungry, or rather, she felt that Fong Yin was hungry. She went to the kitchen and brought over a bowl of steamed buns with chili oil. If Fong Yin missed something, she would subtly remind him. When Fong Yin had something to discuss with her, she would give her opinion in time. Moreover, these opinions were quite important. The ancients all liked women who were beautiful. Lu Chaoga was not just a simple, beautiful woman. She could take charge of a region's affairs, and she could even hold a leadership position in a place where strong people gathered. Most of the information is invalid, and even all of the information is invalid. However, if there is one piece of information that is true, or if there is one piece of information that is true out of 10,000 pieces of information, it means that we have found Li Ye's location. This is very important to us and Li Ye, and it is also very important to Du Qing. This was how Fong Yin explained to Lu Chaoga. Du Qing was his ally, and he was his brother. The reason why Fong Yin was able to stabilize the foundation of Flower City was closely related to Du Qing's help. Without the help of Du Qing's tens of thousands of green and red disciples, how could he know everything that was happening in Flower City? If the generals were to start a war against Fong Yin, Du Qing would be the best breakthrough point and target. Du Qing started his career from the shadows. Although green and red had been shuffled several times, how could he prove that he had cleaned up everything? Especially Du Qing himself. Everyone knew that he was the biggest gangster leader in Flower City back then. He was still the same. You're such a big shot, yet you've never done anything illegal before? Had he never shot someone in the dark and buried someone in a deep hole? No. Who would believe you if you said you hadn't? So many of your brothers had gone in, but you, as the leader, were pure and clean, looking like the reincarnation of a good person. Did you think everyone else was an idiot? If it was a normal day, even if others knew about Du Qing's background, they would be helpless against him. However, it just had to be at this moment. When Li had been kidnapped, Du Qing had no choice but to pinch his nose and make some compromises. For example, turning himself in. Fong Yin did not sleep for the entire night, and Lanshan Valley's willow tree also woke up very early. The news of Li being kidnapped and Du Qing turning himself in had already spread to everyone's ears. How could they not have received the news? Regardless of whether they liked Du Qing or whether they cared about this gang leader who was born in the wilderness, they were on the same side as Du Qing. Since something had happened to an important person on their side, they naturally had to discuss it with Fong Yin, the core figure. Jiang Shangxin followed closely behind them. Not long after Jiang Shangxin left last night, Du Qing came to visit and made the decision to turn himself in. She went back to take a shower, and before she could lie on the bed, she received the shocking news of Du Qing turning himself in. At that moment, She wanted to rush over to see Fong Yin again. However, she thought about it and decided to lie on the bed for a while. She slept all the way until 5 in the morning before she rushed over with her chauffeur and bodyguards. Is it necessary to turn himself in? Jiang Shangxin's face was full of worry. Is there no other solution? It's not that there isn't. Fong Yin scratched his head. Although he did not sleep for the entire night, he seemed to be in good spirits. However, there was a layer of oil on his face and hair, and he did not look very clean and neat. But this is the safest method. Du Qing is too important to us. Lan Shanggu raised his thick eyebrows and said, if he's not around, Qing Hong will not be able to play its role. We do not have Qing Hong's help. If we only rely on our own intelligence channels, we will need to spend a lot more time on many things that happen and develop. Moreover, if those people use Li Ye as a threat to get Du Qing to help them, they won't. Fong Yin said firmly. Du Qing won't. Lan Shanggu took a look at Fong Yin and did not say anything else. It would be a taboo to say something too explicit. You said that Du Qing might be instigated by others, but what evidence do you have? If Du Qing himself or Du Qing's people heard what you said, what kind of attitude would they have towards you in the future? However, what Lan Shanggu did not understand was why Fong Yin trusted Du Qing so much. That's strange too. Jiang Shangxin said, since they kidnapped Li Ye, they could totally ask Du Qing stand on their side. Why did they send Du Qing to prison? Firstly, it's impossible for Du Qing to stand on their side. Fong Yin looked at Jiang Shangxin and explained patiently. Secondly, they won't believe Du Qing. Du Qing is our friend. They would rather destroy him than use him. That would only increase the number of variables. Therefore, after Du Qing confirmed that Li Ye was kidnapped, his only choice was to turn himself in. Let them see it with their own eyes and believe that Du Qing would no longer participate in this war. They have always been so suspicious, Jiang Shangxin said with a face full of disdain. Everyone present knew who she was referring to by the. Others might not know the people from the Jiang family that well, but Jiang Shangxin's understanding of them was deep and ingrained. No one found it strange that this sentence came out of her mouth. Lan Shanggu nodded and said, this is going to be a tough battle. Things have just started, and we don't know how much manpower and resources the Jiang family will invest in this matter. If the entire Jiang family comes forward, we can only passively take a beating. We have been living in a remote corner and have made a small fortune these few years. But to go against a giant like the Jiang family, who have not fallen for hundreds of years, there's really no possibility of winning. But we can't just surrender, right? Lu Shu, who had been sitting in the corner of the sofa in silence, said aloud. Lan Shanggu's face was full of sarcasm as he said, I'm just analyzing the situation that we're going to face. If we were only facing the two brothers, Jiang Junling and General Xing, we can definitely fight with them. But if the entire Jiang family is mobilized with just a few of us here, what do you think our chances are? I hope that the Lu family can withstand the pressure and not run away when the time comes. Lu Shu glanced at Lan Shanggu and said, the Lu family will do what they are supposed to do, but it's hard to say if the Lan family can do what they are supposed to do. Don't tell me that the old master of the Lan family is thinking of taking back the power of the Lan family. It was a good plan. When things are going smoothly, they will follow along and take advantage. Once they are in danger, they will immediately jump out and cut off all ties with their own grandson to preserve their strength. Lan Shanggu stared at Lu Shu with a dark and fierce gaze and said in a hoarse voice, Lu Shu, I know that you are willing to be a mad dog, but there is no need to bite anyone you see, right? Chapter 778. Mad Dog. Lu Shu touched the wolf mask on his face. Ever since his face was cut, he was never willing to show his injured face to others. Whenever he went out, he would wear a sinister wolf mask on his face. Today was no exception. Normal people can tell that I'm just doubting them. It's not like the Lan clan hasn't done such things before. Normal people know that I left the Lan clan long ago to start my own business, Lan Shanggu said with a stern look. That's right. Because of the success of your business, your family's old man rewarded you with all the shares of the Longta Group. Even though Lu Shu's face was covered by the wolf mask, Everyone present could still feel the strong sense of ridicule in his words. None of us here are stupid. Can you stop playing those little tricks of yours? Lan Shanggu grinned and said, Then what do you think we should do? Du Qing has already been crippled. The war has just started, and we've already suffered heavy losses. However, this time, whether we're facing a person or a clan, we need to give it our all and not have any wishful thinking. If the few of us here can't work together, we might be defeated by them one by one. By then, we won't have any chance. Do you think that as long as we give it our all, we will have a chance to win? Jiang Shangxin looked at Lu Shu and asked. Perhaps it was because he was wearing that strange mask? Or perhaps it was because of his personality. This man had a sinister and sly aura. It made people feel a chill down their spines. If it wasn't for Fang Yin, Jiang Shangxin really wouldn't be willing to sit together with such a weirdo and chat. No, Lu Shu said without hesitation. Then why do you still want us to fight with them? Only by fighting with them, only by making them pay the price, will they be able to face our power seriously. Only then will we be able to make them feel fear and self-doubt about their own actions. It's normal for them to annihilate our clan, but in their minds, it's naturally something that's convenient and doesn't need to go to war. However, if they encounter intense attacks every time they make a move and the price they pay is getting bigger and bigger, then they have no choice but to be cautious. If they force it, it will only give opportunities to their competitors. But have you ever thought that if the Jiang family were to face fierce resistance, it would only stimulate their ferocity? I know the Jiang family. They care too much about their face. As long as they took action, they would not rest until one of them was dead. No matter how great the price they had to pay, they had to crush their opponents. Otherwise, they would become the laughingstock of others. They would never do such a thing. What's the difference? Lu Shu's gaze swept past Jiang Shangxin. He looked at Fang Yin and said, Since they have already made their move, they will definitely not stop until they kill us. Since this is the case, do we have a better choice? Lan Shanggu looked at the willow tree and said with a smile, So your Lu clan is going to fight to the death with the Jiang clan? That depends on your attitude towards this matter. Lu Shu's voice was cold as he said, If you fight against the Jiang family with all your strength, the Lu clan will definitely not stay out of this. If you only bring out the strength of one person, the Lu clan will definitely not risk their entire clan's strength to fight to the death with others. When the Lu clan is dead or crippled, you will rise again and cling onto the thighs of the Jiang family. The Lu clan will definitely not do such a thing. If we die together. If we live together. If you can cling onto the thighs of the Jiang family, the Lu clan can do the same. The few people present were all trusted subordinates of Fang Yin and Hua Qing. Before the battle began, these people had already started arguing. Not only did they represent individuals, but they also represented a family that was, and still is, very prominent. Was the interest of the clan the same as the interest of the clan? Would the clan be willing to bet on the future of the clan to stand with them? These matters were too complicated. Even Fang Yin did not have any better solutions. As they attacked each other with their tongues, Fang Yin held his teacup and drank his tea quietly. He did not stop them or make a sound. He only looked at them quietly. It was as if he was trying to find some clues from their intense or harsh words. It was only when he heard the willow tree say, If we die together. If we live together. That Fang Yin finally snapped out of his dazed state. Fang Yin looked at the willow tree, then looked at Lan Shanggu and Jiang Shangxin, who were sitting at the side. He smiled and said, If we are to live, we will naturally live together. However, if we are to die, I hope that I will die alone. Young master, don't say such things. Lan Shanggu hurriedly stopped him. We are all comrades on the same boat. If the boat is sunk, who can survive? I don't mean that, the willow tree also explained. I just hope that everyone can be tied together and not be separated by others. My life was saved by you. Jiang Shangxin giggled and said, If it wasn't for you, I might have died in Paris. Don't be angry with me, Sister Lu. My life is yours. You can take it any time you want. Jiang Shangxin chuckled. I'm not angry. Lu Chaoga looked at Jiang Shangxin and said, Mine too. Fang Yin waved his hand and said, "There's one thing we must admit. The reason why the Jiang clan launched this attack is because they hate me the most. Of course, if it was only because they hate me, they wouldn't be willing to spend so much capital to do this. Or is it because of interests? If I'm not around, can you protect the Rubik's Cube and Xiaoyan's interests?" "I'm fighting with the Jiang family to the death." "You're fighting with the Jiang family for interests. Even if you lose, you'll only lose some interests. Finding someone to say some soft words and give up some interests is something that everyone can accept. So, I will still say the same thing. If I need to die, let me die alone. However, if you are willing to stand with me and do something to protect your interests, I will be very grateful." Lan Shanggu's eyes flickered. He finally made up his mind and said, "Master, before I say that, I need to go back and discuss with the old master." Fang Yin nodded and said, "I understand." The willow tree was the first to express his opinion. He said, "Life and death are up to fate. As long as the Lu family can offer us, we will definitely not be stingy. This time, let the Lu family be the vanguard." Jiang Shangxin looked at Fang Yin and said, "I don't have anything to offer. The only thing I have is what you have given me. I can only fight to the death." Lu Chaoga did not say anything. She only held on to Fang Yan's hand tightly. He was alive. He was already alive. He was dead. He was already dead. Fang Yin smiled and raised the teacup in his hand. He said, "The world is so beautiful. Everyone should try their best to live. In order to live." Everyone raised their teacups and gently clinked with Fang Yan's teacup. At noon, the Jiang family's real attack finally came. First, the Lu family's cargo ship was seized by the coast police. They said that someone reported them for smuggling. Li Mingzhu, the person in charge of the shipping company, went to negotiate with the coast police, but they refused to budge. Li Mingzhu agreed to let them inspect the ship to prove their company's innocence. However, the coast police said that there were too many ships in front of them. They might not be able to inspect them in a short time. One had to know that there was a delivery date for cargo ships. If they could not deliver the goods within the specified time, they would have to pay a large sum of compensation. They seized more than 100 cargo ships and more than 10,000 containers of the Lu family. They almost seized the entire shipping company that the Lu family controlled. Not to mention the large sum of compensation that the Lu family had to pay to their customers if they could not deliver the goods within the specified time. Just the daily losses of the shipping company was already an astronomical figure. The Lu family started off by shipping and shipping. They started from this link and caused the collapse of the entire industry chain. As long as they did not let go, the Lu family would not be able to deliver the goods. If they did not deliver the goods, they would have to pay double the compensation. More importantly, all the customers would understand that there was no guarantee of safety when working with the Lu family. In the future, which company would be willing to work with the Lu family and ask them to transport goods? This would be a fatal blow to the Lu family. Lan Shanggu did not have a good time either. After he left the Lan family, he established a trading company. In the past few years, he helped Chao Yin to sell the Rubik's Cube products. The company expanded rapidly and was now starting to take shape. However, today, the trading company was suddenly seized. It was said that they were involved in tax evasion. Fang Yin was not sure if Lan Shanggu had evaded taxes. However, to be honest, how many companies in Huaxia did not evade taxes? Even the staff of the government department were trying to find invoices so that they could be reimbursed. The reason why Lan Shanggu was targeted was because someone wanted to touch them. The sales company was investigated and the sales channel was broken. This naturally affected the delivery and sales of the Rubik's Cube. It affected the purchase of consumers and the demand of the market. Lan Shanggu was not the only one in trouble. Even the Lan family was hit by them. Two of the listed companies controlled by the Lan family were exposed to scandals. The moment the market opened, their prices fell. Based on the current trend, it would be difficult for them to recover in a short period of time. When that happened, the stocks of the Lan family would be no different from waste paper. What made Fang Yin the most furious was that Jiang Shangxin met with a car accident when she went alone to group to control the overall situation. Chapter 779. After Shangxin left Fang Yan's side, she went straight to work at Longta Group. The more chaotic the situation was, the more they needed to be in charge of the headquarters. Since the Jiang family had failed to acquire the shares of Longta Group from Shangxin, they naturally wouldn't show any mercy to this company. The Lan family and the Lu family were facing a huge crisis, and it was still unknown how they were going to deal with Longta Group. However, the more unknown it was, the more worried and uneasy it was. When Jiang Shangxin's car turned left on Donghu Road, a truck full of furniture ran the red light and crashed into the side of the Mercedes-Benz that Jiang Shangxin was in. Luckily, Shangxin discovered it in time and hurriedly instructed the driver to crash into the green belt in the middle of the road. The front of the truck broke the railing in the middle of the green belt, then it turned around and fled in the opposite direction. The truck couldn't stop in time and crashed into the green belt. The body of the truck tilted and the entire car overturned in the middle of the road. The large furniture on the car was scattered all over the ground, and the traffic on the entire road was blocked. Jiang Shangxin's bodyguards rushed over and wanted to control the truck driver. However, by the time they arrived, the truck driver had already disappeared. It was as if he had vanished in a thin air. When Jiang Shangxin called Fang Yan to talk about this, Fang Yan told her not to go to the office and to find a safe place to stay. Jiang Shangxin insisted on going and said that if she was scared off today, she would fall into the trap of the people behind the scenes. Jiang Shangxin gritted her teeth when she talked about those people. It seemed that this assassination incident had made her hate her family to the core. Fang Yan had no choice but to send a group of elites from Green Wolf to Longtu Group to be in charge of Jiang Shangxin's safety. Green Wolf agreed to Fang Yan's words and immediately sent a group of people to Longtu Group to carry out the mission. Fortunately, Green Wolf had a strong foundation. Otherwise, under the situation where they needed manpower in all aspects, their small business wouldn't be able to hold on. Compared to the huge crisis encountered by the Lan and Lu families, Chaoyan Technology was calm. Nothing unusual had happened. It was as if the Jiang family had deliberately forgotten about it, or they simply did not know the relationship between Fang Yan and Chaoyan Technology. However, in the eyes of Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga, this was not a lucky thing. Everyone knew that Chaoyan Technology belonged to Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga, as well as the Qin family. If the Jiang family made a move against Chaoyan Technology, they would naturally anger the Qin family and force the Qin family to retaliate. This was clearly unwise. The Jiang family didn't touch Chaoyan Technology because they didn't want to anger the Qin family. However, another possibility could not be ruled out. The Jiang family and the Qin family had reached a consensus, sacrificing Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga in exchange for control of the entire Chaoyan Technology. Chaoyan Technology had the Rubik's Cube, which was coveted by the energy industry all over the world. The Rubik's Cube was a hen that could continuously lay golden eggs. Even a family like the Qin family could not resist the strong temptation it emitted. If the Qin family had really reached a secret agreement with the Jiang family, it would be a disaster for Fang Yan. Don't think too badly of the outcome. Looking at Fang Yan frowning in front of the map of Huacheng, Lu Chaoga's heart ached. She tried to persuade him. Maybe they were just afraid of angering the Qin family. With Chaoyan Technology's current important position in the Qin family's entire industry layout, attacking Chaoyan is equivalent to attacking the Qin family. The Qin family will definitely not tolerate it. They are very cautious. Lu Chaoga did not go to Chaoyan Technology to oversee things. After Jiang Shangxin got into a car accident on her way to work, Fang Yan stopped Lu Chaoga from going to work. He didn't want Lu Chaoga to encounter the same thing again. He didn't dare to take the risk. He could lose, but he would never gamble with the lives of Lu Chaoga and the people close to him. Moreover, even if Lu Chaoga didn't go, Chaoyan Technology could still hold on. The people from the Qin family were all at their posts. Even if the Jiang family attacked Chaoyan, the wealthy families would have a common language. I need to make a trip to the Yin capital. Fang Yan said in a low voice. I need to go to the Qin family. I want to talk to them. Lu Chaoga nodded and said, Okay, you're going to talk to them. It was pitch black and gloomy. There was also a faint smell of blood in the air. Du Qing had lived on the edge of a knife for almost half of his life, so he was very familiar with the smell of blood. According to Du Qing's status, he shouldn't have been brought to such a detention room to be interrogated. He should have had better conditions. The connections he had made in Huacheng would have stood up for him and treated him as a distinguished guest. This was the happy prison life of a gang leader. For those with money and power, there is a world of difference between outside and inside prison. But similarly, inside prison, there is a world of difference between their lives and those of ordinary prisoners. The treatment they received in prison was a life that many prisoners couldn't enjoy on the outside. However, Du Qing obviously couldn't enjoy these benefits. After he entered the building, he was locked into a separate and sealed room. The room was narrow. Other than a broken bucket for prisoners to relieve themselves, there was nothing else. There was no table, chair, or bed. He could only rest and sleep on the floor. Because the room was too small, he couldn't straighten his body. He had to bend his waist when he slept. Du Qing didn't have any objections. He found a clean place and sat down. Then, he closed his eyes and began to rest. The night was silent. No one came to disturb him. After dawn, he was brought to this slightly larger interrogation room. Du Qing knew that the show had begun. When he was still a lackey, he would occasionally be arrested and locked up for a few days. Now that he thought about it, how many years had it been since he came to this kind of place? 10 years. Or 20 years. What a distant memory. Clang. The iron door of the interrogation room was pushed open. A thin man wearing glasses walked in. 2 tall men in uniform followed behind. After they came in, the iron door behind them closed with a clang. The man with glasses stood in front of Du Qing and looked down at him. He smiled and said, "Boss Du, long time no see. You're still as elegant as ever." Du Qing glanced at the man with glasses and said in a deep voice, "How can a down-and-out prisoner be called a boss? Captain Wang, don't make fun of me. Boss Du is too modest. Who doesn't know that you're the underground king of Huacheng? You can summon tens of thousands of underlings to work for you with a stomp of your foot. Every day, you make a lot of money. Who doesn't give you some face?" Wang Dequan adjusted the glasses on the bridge of his nose and said jokingly, "I don't get it. I really don't get it." The mighty boss Du came to the police station to turn himself in and even fell into my hands. "Boss Du, do you still remember our friendship in the past?" "I remember." Du Qing nodded. "Back then, you came to my place to collect protection fees. My brothers lifted you up and threw you out. Du Qing, you didn't think that you would end up like this, did you?" Wang Dequan said coldly with a dark look in his eyes. "Why wouldn't I?" Du Qing smiled lightly. "In our line of work, we can be killed by a bullet at any time. Being cut off or having our head blown off. What kind of ending haven't I thought about? Now I'm just sitting at a place I used to come to. It's already much better than I thought. Du Qing, do you think you're just here to sit? Do you know who you've offended?" Wang Dequan laughed and said, "You've made friends with so many bigwigs. Why didn't anyone call to intercede for you this time? Think about it. There are hundreds of people in this bureau. Why is it that it's my turn to interrogate you? Du Qing, you're about to die, don't you know?" Du Qing looked at Wang Dequan and said, I know some things better than you. You can ask, I'll tell you everything I can, and I won't say a word that I can't say." "Pa." Wang Dequan threw a file in his hand on the iron table in front of Du Qing and said, "Du Qing, this is the record of your surrender. Think about it. Did you miss anything?" Du Qing didn't touch the documents and said, "I've said everything that should be said. Think about it again." Wang Dequan took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it up, saying, "Think about it carefully. If you can't think of it, my subordinates are happy to help you recall. Our conditions here are simple. Some of our interrogation methods and tools are not as advanced and ruthless as your guys who play dirty. But if Boss Du is willing to give us some advice, I think we will definitely improve. Don't you think so?" Du Qing looked up at Wang Dequan and said, "I know what you want. Boss Du is one of the smart people in Huacheng. Of course you know what I want. You want me to bite people. Bite people who don't matter. How can you say people who don't matter? He's a big shot in Huacheng. Even Boss Du has to follow his lead. I can't afford to offend this kind of person. However, Since he has a close relationship with Boss Du, how could he not have a part in the things you've done? Don't you think so? I did it. Du Qing's fingers lightly tapped on the table and said, "It has nothing to do with him." You see, you're really not smart to say that. Wang Dequan shook his head and sighed. He gave a look, and immediately a tall man pressed a stack of newspapers on Du Qing's back. Another policeman held a metal rod and smashed it on the newspapers. Bang! The newspapers made a dull sound, and Du Qing's body suddenly fell forward. Du Qing's chest bumped against the metal table, but he quickly straightened his back and straightened his spine. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, looked at Wang Dequan, and said, "You don't care." Chapter 780. Fastidious. Wang Dequan looked at Du Qing and laughed. When Du Qing was punished, there was a sense of pleasure in his heart. When he was still a small policeman, Du Qing was high up and didn't put them in his eyes at all. He went to his place to collect some protection fee. Oh no, management fee. Du Qing actually dared to order his underlings to carry him out and throw him on the street. As time went by and his position rose, it was harder for him to let go of that incident. That incident was like a fishbone deeply stuck in his throat, unable to get out or go down. Du Qing, he was just a gangster leader. How dare he treat him like this? He had held grudges for many years and waited for many years. If Du Qing hadn't voluntarily surrendered himself, if someone hadn't wanted to trample him to death, he would never have exposed his dissatisfaction with Du Qing. After all, he was now a famous business tycoon. However, he had offended someone he couldn't afford to offend. He had to surrender himself to the police station, and someone sent him to him. With so many coincidences added up, if he didn't know how to grasp it, he would have been wronged for so many years in vain. Now, Du Qing's life and death were in his hands. Even if he asked someone to beat him to death, it could also be said that he had a heart attack. Anyway, he had checked Du Qing's information, and Du Qing had a lot of small problems. Wang Dequan seemed to have heard the best joke in the world. He held his stomach and laughed until he couldn't breathe, saying, "Fastidious? Did I hear it wrong? A gangster leader told me that I'm not fastidious? What is this? It's like a murderer telling us, you don't respect the law. Ha ha ha. Du Qing, are you confused? Such words. How can you have the nerve to say it? You're not fastidious." Du Qing didn't laugh. His forehead was dripping with blood, and the blood slid down his cheeks, giving him a kind of mournful and sinister temperament. "You weren't fastidious back then, and you're still not fastidious now." Du Qing looked at Wang Dequan and said, "Do you know why I asked someone to throw you out? When others came over, I would give them good cigarettes and wine, and I would not miss a cent. But you're different from them. You're not fastidious, and you directly doubled the money we should pay. You broke the rules. If I had promised you that time, you would soon have quadrupled it, 8-fold, 16-fold, until we could not afford it. Gangsters are people too. They need to look after the place, wash the dishes, and serve the customers to earn money. If you take away so much, how are they supposed to live? What happened back then is already in the past. I'm talking about the present. As the saying goes, you can see the old from 3 years old. You haven't changed much from how you were back then." Du Qing's lips curled into a smile, as if he was mocking Wang Dequan for not growing up. "You're not at all particular now. You should know that when everyone's status reaches a certain level, everyone will part on good terms. Harmony breeds wealth, right? I know you have a heavy responsibility on your shoulders, so I won't make things difficult for you. I've told you everything that I should. My explanation is equivalent to giving an explanation to the higher-ups for you." Du Qing gently shook his head and said, "I'm thinking for you, but you're not thinking for me at all." He looked back at the two men in black who were responsible for the torture and said, "What is this? Playing with torture? You're not smart, so I can only think of a way to make you smarter," Wang Dequan said coldly. He didn't like Du Qing's gaze. He didn't like Du Qing's smile. He didn't like how Du Qing still dared to look at him like that, even though he was already a prisoner. "Du Qing, if you've come to your senses, then hurry up and tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. Did someone instigate you to do those things? Is there something else you're hiding from us?" "Wang Dequan, I can tell you honestly that Fong Yin is a good person. He's a good person who can go to heaven even if he dies. He wouldn't instigate me to do those things. If he knew that I did those things that you think I did, he would immediately cut off all ties with me. In this world, not all successful people are as dirty as you think, and not all people are as unscrupulous as you think. I've said it before, I've said what I should say. I won't tell you a single word of what you want to hear. There's a path to heaven that you don't want to take. All right. Du Qing waved his hand. When he waved his arm, the shackles on his hands clanked. I'm more familiar with these lines than you, and I can say them with more vigor than you. What are you going to do? Hurry up and start. You've got guts and loyalty. Wang Dequan clapped his hands and laughed. Soon, his expression became as gloomy as iron. He shouted, loosen his bones, let him sober up. Bang! Another iron rod hit Du Qing's back. No, it was the discarded newspapers that were patted on his back. Bang, bang, bang. The rod hit him again and again. With each hit, Du Qing's body staggered and fell forward. The rib cage in his chest hit the metal table and made a pah sound. Soon, he straightened his back and sat up. After dozens of strikes, Du Qing's reaction speed became slower and slower, and it took him longer and longer to get up. However, every time the iron rod hit him down, he would sit up straight again with his head held high and chest puffed out. Previously, he only vomited blood from his mouth, but now his nose and eyes were bleeding. His internal organs were severely injured, and the bones in the back of his body were about to break. This was a special torture method that would break the bones and internal organs inside, but leave no visible external wounds. Du Qing knew that he could really be beaten to death by them. Bang! Another rod hit him from behind. Du Qing's head laid on the table in front of him, not moving for a long time. Wang Dequan walked to the front of Du Qing and grabbed his hair to pull his head up. Looking at his bloody and wretched appearance, Wang Dequan coldly said, Du Qing, you should already know the current situation, right? Someone wants you dead, and I don't want you to live. Say it, and I'll give you relief. TSK, the dignified boss of Qing Hong has to bear such humiliation. Even I can't bear it. Du Qing, say it, and I'll give you dignity. Live or die, I'll give you dignity. Wang Dequan. Du Qing opened his heavy eyelids, looked at the fierce man in front of him, and said, You're not particular. Yes, I'm not particular. Wang Dequan didn't deny it. If you're not particular, then I'm also not particular, Du Qing said. Do you know who I am? You're Du Qing, the famous leader of hoodlums in Huaqing. Yes, I'm Du Qing, the famous leader of hoodlums in Huaqing. Tell me, if I die in your hands, what will you do? Wang Dequan smirked coldly and said, Du Qing, what? Are you revealing your true intentions? Are you threatening me? Why don't you think? You're a dying man. What right do you have to threaten me? Wang Dequan, do you know? Although I, Du Qing, have countless women, I've never been single. I know you're a playboy. Men like you who have done too many bad things are afraid that your son won't have an asshole. I don't have a wife or son, so I don't have any scruples. Wang Dequan, you do. You're different from me. What do you mean? Wang Dequan's expression froze and asked in a low voice. You're not particular, so I can also be very particular with people who are not particular. Wang Dequan, I believe you, I might die here. But have you ever thought, I, Du Qing, have tens of thousands of disciples. Can you capture them one by one? Kill them one by one? If you can't capture them all, you can't clean them up. As long as one escapes the net, they'll find your family, your wife and children. Wang Dequan, no one has ever said this to you before, right? To be honest, although I'm a leader of hoodlums, I believe that one should be particular when doing things. I believe that everyone should take responsibility for their own mistakes, not their wives and children. That's why I've never said this to anyone else. I think it's unstylish and embarrassing. But today, Du Qing coughed violently. He covered his mouth with his hand, and his palm was filled with fresh blood. He used his elbow to support himself on the table and slowly pushed his body up. He ran a hand through his hair to make it look less messy. He forced himself to stay alert and once again straightened his back. His checkered waistcoat was clean and neat, giving off a sense of elegance. His black suit and black trench coat were stained with blood, but he still gave off a gentlemanly feeling. He looked at Wang Dequan, his voice hoarse but unyielding. "Today, I'll make an exception. Wang Dequan, I, Du Qing, reserve your wife and children." You're threatening me." Du Qing no longer looked at Wang Dequan, but turned to look at the two tall men, saying, "You've worked hard, but don't dare to trouble the two of you. Take a break. I'll do it myself." The two tall men looked at Du Qing's calm and cold expression, and couldn't help but take a step back. At this time, Du Qing had an intimidating aura. Like a vicious tiger, even if it was heavily injured, it wouldn't allow those chickens and dogs to invade it. "Thank you." Seeing the two tall men step back, Du Qing grinned at them. Then, he slammed his head on the iron table in front of him. Clang, clang, clang. Chapter 781. There is a saying in Jianghu, "The arrogant are afraid of the stupid, and the stupid are afraid of the reckless." In the process of promotion, Wang Dequan had also done a lot of things that crossed the bottom line. He had always thought that he was a dangerous man who did not care about his life. However, after seeing Du Qing's performance at this moment, he realized that compared to his own self-awareness, he realized that he was simply not up to par. It wasn't that he didn't care about his life, but he was just being unreasonable. For so many years, he couldn't even be arrogant. What a cruel truth. Clang, clang, clang. Du Qing was still banging against the wall with all his might, as if he wanted to smash his head. He wanted to kill himself in front of Wang Dequan. His forehead was dripping with blood. The blood blurred his eyes and slid down his cheeks, flowing down his neck and onto his white shirt. Because his shirt was so white and straight, it was so bright and dazzling after being stained with blood, and it was a ghastly sight. His flesh and blood were sticky, and the wound on his forehead could no longer be seen clearly. Every time they collided, there would be a heavy thud on the iron table. Clang, clang, clang. Because Du Qing used too much force, grooves of different sizes appeared on the metal table. Clang, clang, clang. With every knock, another groove would appear. When he knocked his head on the same spot, the previous dent became bigger and deeper, as if the iron shell was about to break apart. Clang, clang, clang. Every time Du Qing's head smashed against the metal table, it felt like he was smashing against the faces and hearts of Wang Dequan and the others. It felt like he was trying to smash open the gates of hell for himself and for Wang Dequan and the others. "Captain," a tall uniformed man's face was filled with panic. He pointed at Du Qing, who was still hitting his head with all his might, wanting to commit suicide, and said, "Something will happen to him. Something will happen to him like this. Captain, what do we do now?" The other uniformed man was also frightened. They were in this line of work, and they often used private torture on others. But today they hadn't even done anything, and the suspect had already done it. This was the first time they had seen something like this. It was only then that they realized the man's identity. Not only was he the prisoner Du Qing who had turned himself in, he was also the leader of Qing Hong, the underground godfather of Flower City, with tens of thousands of subordinates. Even now, he wasn't someone they could bully at will. The one who was suffering the most was Wang Dequan. Perhaps Du Qing would not remember the names of the two black-clothed men who had carried out the torture. In fact, he would not even bother to remember their names. He knew that they had been ordered by someone else, and he would not lower himself to the level of such insignificant people. However, he would definitely take revenge on him. Just as he had said, his wife was already reserved by Du Qing. He wasn't joking. If he died here today, the enraged members of the Green-Red Gang would really take revenge on all of Wang Dequan's relatives and children. Wang Dequan didn't dare to imagine what they would do. He wasn't afraid of thieves stealing, but he was afraid of thieves remembering. However, if he were to give up on Du Qing just like that, how was he going to explain it to the higher-ups? Explain to those who wanted Du Qing to bite or die. Previously, Wang Dequan was very excited, feeling that the best opportunity had arrived. If he could do this job well, he would have a meteoric rise in his career or even several steps forward. Moreover, he could humiliate Du Qing. just like how Du Qing humiliated him in the past. But how did things become like this? Du Qing. Wang Dequan's forehead was drenched in cold sweat as he clenched his teeth and shouted Du Qing's name. Quang. Du Qing acted as though he didn't notice it as he continued to knock his head hard. His strength was getting weaker, and his speed was getting slower and slower. His eyes were already finding it hard to open. He was relying on his body's inertia to do this. You bunch of trash. Wang Dequan finally couldn't hold on any longer. He scolded the two tall men. Hurry up and stop him. Do you really want to see him die in front of you? Let me tell you, Wang Dequan, have to bear the responsibility. None of you can escape. When the two uniformed men heard Wang Dequan's order, they hurriedly supported Du Qing on his left and right, preventing him from knocking his head on the metal table again. Bang! Du Qing was still using his head to knock forward, but this time his head knocked onto the chest of one of Wang Dequan's men. Dear passengers and friends, Flight A73001 from Huacheng to Yinjing has arrived. We, the Sky Alliance. The sound of the broadcast in the cabin woke Fong Yin up. He didn't sleep last night, and today he was busy dealing with all kinds of unexpected situations. He was also busy rushing to the airport before the matter was over, so his body was indeed a little tired. He naturally couldn't waste some rest time on the plane. He always needed to maintain his best mental state. The battle had just begun. Who knew what would happen later? He opened his eyes and looked out the window. The sky was gloomy, and it was still drizzling outside. This made Fong Yan's mood even gloomier, and he could only secretly pray in his heart that everything would go smoothly on this trip to Yinjing. Fong Yin came to Yinjing alone, and he didn't bring any luggage. After the plane landed, he directly took the flight company's VIP car and left first. When he walked to the exit, he immediately saw a tall and handsome man who was like a statue of a Greek god standing at the exit to welcome him. Eagle Moo. Because of Eagle Moo's outstanding appearance, all the people at the exit looked at his face. Some bold girls even took the initiative to come up to him and ask for his phone number. When he shook his head and refused, those girls were on the verge of tears, and their hearts were about to break. Fong Yin couldn't bear it anymore, so he walked up to Eagle Moo and said, "If they want your phone number, just give it to them. You don't have to contact them every day." "Thank you, uncle." Seeing that someone had spoken up for them, the two girls who came to ask for Eagle Moo's phone number bowed and thanked Fong Yin together. "Uncle?" The flesh on Fong Yan's face twitched, and he regretted being a busybody. "You've arrived." Eagle Moo looked at Fong Yin with a smile and said, "This kind of thing always happens. If I give my phone number to everyone who asks for it, my number will become a public phone." This time, it was even more serious. Fong Yin planned to have a good talk with Qin Tian. If he wanted to send someone to pick him up at the airport next time, could he not send a guy like Eagle Moo? When he stood with Eagle Moo, people would always suspect that he was the one carrying the bags. As an outstanding protagonist, Fong Yin couldn't stand this kind of treatment. Qin Tian's actions were always so noble and extraordinary, as if she never wanted to hide her wealth. She didn't have the awareness of being a heroine at all. If you don't hide your identity, if you don't hide your wealth, how can anyone bully you? If no one bullies you, how can the male protagonist save the damsel in distress? How can he act cool and slap her in the face? Behind Eagle Moo were four tall men in black. They looked cool and professional, like bodyguards from a big family. There was a long Rolls-Royce parked at the entrance, and Fong Yin recognized it as Qin Tian's car. Qin Tian sent his own car to pick him up. Eagle Moo personally opened the car door for Fong Yin, and after Fong Yin got in, he opened the door from the other side and got in. He sat next to Fong Yin and said, "It's really late today, and Miss can't make arrangements. You should rest well. Tomorrow morning, she will personally pick you up and take you to see the person you want to see." Fong Yin nodded. This was the benefit of hanging out with smart people. You didn't need to think about anything, and others would do it for you. You just needed to follow her arrangements, and every step of the way wouldn't make you feel uncomfortable or disappointed. Qin Tian, this girl, how did she look like this? Fong Yin looked at Eagle Moo and asked, "How's Tian recently?" Eagle Moo grinned and said, "Did you hear some rumors, so you want to get an answer from me?" "I heard some bad rumors." Fong Yin said embarrassedly. He knew that these people were all shrewd people. Trying to pry information from them was a form of disrespect in the first place. Some people said that the Jiang family and the Qin family are working together, so I'm a little worried. I understand what you're worried about. But I can't tell you this, Eagle Moo said with a smile. I'm a member of the Qin family, and I support everything the Qin family does. Even if I don't support it, I won't oppose it. Whatever answer the Qin family gives you, that's the answer I can give you. So, before the Qin family gives you an answer, I can't give you any information. You're really... Fong Yin smiled bitterly. A good dog? No, a good person, Fong Yin praised. I have brothers like that with me, and one of them turned himself in for me. I understand his situation, and I know what he's going to face. However, I didn't stop him from doing it. Why? Because he's my brother, Fong Yin said with a smile. What he did for me is what I'm willing to do for him. I really envy your relationship. Eagle Moo chuckled. Miss wouldn't say something like that to me. What would Miss say to you? She said, Eagle Moo, you're too good-looking and Fong Yin won't like you. Why don't you go for plastic surgery and make yourself uglier? That way, when I marry Fong Yin, you can still serve me. Chapter 782. Did she really say that? Fong Yin asked in shock. How could Qin Tian say that? She really understood him too well. Fong Yin thought Qin Tian was becoming more and more adorable. But when did they get married? What did he say he was going to marry Qin Tian? This lass is always so lawless. She's too reckless. Muing shrugged his shoulders, looking handsome. Fortunately, there were only men in the car, and no woman saw him like this. Otherwise, someone would be crazy about him. Fong Yin didn't like crazy people. Even Hua Xia's 7 addicts were no exception. Of course not, Muing said helplessly. I'm her loyal confidant. If she really treats me like this, wouldn't it be too sad? I knew it. Fong Yin breathed a sigh of relief and said, Qin Tian is a girl with a high EQ. She wouldn't say something so rude. But she did worry about it, Muing said helplessly. She looked at me a few times and said, Muing, you're too good-looking. You have to think of a way. If she said I was ugly and she asked me to think of a way, I would know that she wanted me to have plastic surgery. But I'm already like this, and she still asked me to think of a way. What does that mean? Fong Yin looked at Mu Ying's exquisite facial features and said with jealousy, Look, you're better looking than many girls. Maybe your mistress thinks you're too much of a show-off, so she wants you to keep a low profile. No. She's not someone who doesn't have confidence in herself. Muing shook his head firmly. Everyone thinks that she's the #1 beauty in Yanjing, and she must think so in her heart, even if she never said it, and she always acted cold and indifferent to this kind of thing. But that must be what her psychology thinks. Muing looked at Fong Yin and said, She just doesn't have confidence in you. Fong Yin had a feeling that the trip to Beijing would not be smooth. The car stopped at the entrance of an ancient villa. Fong Yin got off the car and looked at the antique courtyard. He asked, Where is this? Muing glanced at Fong Yin and said, Mrs. House. Why are we here? Fong Yin asked, Isn't that a little inconvenient? Why don't you send me to the hotel? Why do you care? Muing asked, looking at Fong Yin. You're worried that this will bring trouble to Miss, aren't you? You also know. Fong Yin bitterly smiled and said, Some time ago, there were rumors about me and Tian in Beijing, and some of them were very unpleasant to hear. Now that I'm living in her house, doesn't that make people even more suspicious? I don't care about it, but it's not good for the girl's reputation. Muing grinned, made an inviting gesture, and said, Since you don't care, there's no need to go anywhere else. Do you think Miss will care about what others say? Is there anything in this world that she cares about? It's not good for you to make enemies for your Miss, right? Miss doesn't lack money, nor does she lack career. She has the looks and wisdom. What she lacks is a lover and an enemy. The courtyard door opened, and a servant ran over to open it. Muing looked at the young woman who quickly came over and said, This is Mr. Fong, a very important person to Mississippi. Please treat him well. He then pointed to the woman and said to Fong Yin, "This is Mrs. Housekeeper, Coco. If you need anything, you can ask her to do it." Coco showed the professionalism of a personal butler. He bowed respectfully to Fong Yin and said with a face full of smiles, "Hello, Mr. Fong. I'm Mrs. Personal Butler, Coco. Miss specially called me to tell me that a friend will be staying here and asked me to take good care of him. Mr. Fong, you just got off the plane, right? I prepared a simple dinner for you according to your taste. Before that, if you'd like, you can go outside and soak in the hot spring for a while. The hot spring water is ready, and the clothes are placed next to the hot spring pool." Muing said goodbye to Fong Yin and asked Fong Yin to have a good rest tonight. Miss would come to pick him up the next morning. Of course, Fong Yin wanted to soak in the hot spring first. Before he got close to the pool, he could hear the bubbling sound and the faint smell of sulfur. It was indeed the most authentic Mount Tangshan hot spring. The hot spring was open air and was isolated from the outside world by dense trees. You could see outside from the inside, but you couldn't see inside from the outside. Fong Yin took off all his clothes and sat in the hot spring pool with only a pair of shorts on. He couldn't help but let out a comfortable moan. The temperature of the hot spring was just right as he soaked in it, opening up every pore on his body. It made Fong Yin feel extremely comfortable. All the fatigue on his body was swept away, and his mind became much clearer. He felt like he had been reborn. Fong Yin looked around at the elegant installations and some simple but unique furnishings. He immediately realized that this was the pool that Qin Yitian used to soak in. He actually used Qin Yitian's pool. He actually shared a hot spring with Qin Yitian, but when he thought about how the hot spring outside was shared by countless people, he felt that it wasn't a big deal after all. Anyway, Qin Yitian wasn't here now. What was Qin Yitian doing now? What was the Qin family's choice? Did they reach a secret agreement with the Jiang family? What about Qin Yitian? Her position. He believed that Qin Yitian naturally knew her position. But would this make things difficult for her in the middle? There was a slight sound of footsteps. "Coco." Fong Yin rested his head on the wall of the hot spring and said, "Don't rush to eat. I want to soak for a while." The sound of footsteps got closer. Then, one foot reached into the hot spring, and another foot reached in. Fong Yin was furious. This Qin Yitian, what did she think he was? She even dared to arrange this kind of healthcare program that insulted him. What kind of person did she think he was? Fong Yin stood up and was ready to use his eyes to condemn the girl who dared to break into the hot spring. Fong Yin's eyes widened as he looked at the long-haired girl in a black swimsuit sitting in the pool, and he asked, "Why are you here? This is my home. Why can't I be here?" The girl's eyes twinkled like the stars in the sky. There was a faint smile on her face. She looked at Fong Yin seriously, as if she was admiring the most precious treasure in the world. "Didn't Eagle Moo say, I told Eagle Moo that I would come to find you tomorrow? I'm a girl. How could I tell Eagle Moo that you brought Fong Yin here and that I would wait for him at home? How could I tell him that?" The girl's voice was clear and crisp. But why did I come to soak in the hot spring? No, what I mean is that, Mr. Fong, are you really that surprised by my arrival? From what I know about you, you should have guessed these things in advance, right? The young girl stretched out her snow-white and tender arms and cupped the hot spring bubbles one after another. She said, "You have so many doubts in your heart and all kinds of things that have happened or will happen soon. If I don't come to see you, the doubts in your heart will become even deeper and stronger. You definitely won't be able to sleep well tonight, right? How could I bear to do that? It's so late. I thought it wasn't convenient for you to come out." Fong Yin explained, "It's not convenient for me to come out, but as long as you want to do something, you can always think of a way, right? For example, I used to think that since the hot spring here is so good, it would be great if you could come and soak in it. I just thought about it. Now I can do it. Isn't that right?" Qin Yitian, "Mr. Fong, don't be nervous." Qin Yitian looked at Fong Yin, who was huddled in the corner, and giggled. She splashed a handful of water on his face and said, "We're just taking a bath together. I don't need you to take any responsibility. If I have to take responsibility for something like this, who would dare to go swimming in public?" "Thank you." Fong Yin looked at the beautiful and flawless woman who was like a fairy in the forest. He felt that his throat was a little blocked. He said in a deep voice, "I'm very happy that you can come. I'm very happy. I believe in you. I've always believed in you. But for you to appear in front of me, I still feel it's a pleasant surprise." "Of course," Qin Yitian said, as if it was a matter of course. "I'm the most beautiful woman in Yinjing. Not every man has the opportunity to soak in the hot spring with me. This is my bath. I designed it myself. Since it was built, I'm the only one who has soaked in it. Now there's one more person, and it's a man. Fortunately, I don't hate this man. It's my honor. I'll definitely enjoy it," Fang Yin said with a smile. "When I soaked my body in just now, I felt that the pressure that I've endured these days was swept away. It seems that you can sleep well tonight," Qin Yitian said with a smile. Fang Yin looked at Qin Yitian and asked, "Who am I going to see tomorrow?" "Of course, the person who has the most ability to help you." "Is her attitude the same as yours?" Qin Yitian shook his head. "She wants to maintain cooperation with the Jiang family?" Fang Yan's heart began to sink. For a long time, he and Lu Chaoga's backer was the woman who controlled the Qin family. If she also wanted to maintain cooperation with the Jiang family, then their days would really be difficult. "No, I mean, I don't understand her." Qin Yitian looked at Fang Yan and said, "You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.